What's going on? Just about 6 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Final game of the wild card round wrapped up last night with the Rams taking down the Vikings 27-9. Rams pushed the score early, outscoring the Vikings in the first half 24-3. Rams will now take on the Eagles, while the Vikings have a big quarterback decision to make between Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, and rookie J.J. McCarthy. The official divisional round schedule is as follows. Saturday, you're going to see the Texans take on the Chiefs at 4:30. That night, Commanders will go to the Lions. And then Sunday, we'll have Rams at Eagles, while the Bills and Ravens take up the night slate. Titans wrapped up their second group of interviews with potential GM candidates, and we have a list. Terrence Gray from Buffalo, the director of player personnel, assistant general manager in Chicago, Ian Cunningham, the Bucs assistant general manager, John Spytek, Chiefs assistant general manager, Mike Borgonzi, and Colts assistant general manager, Ed Dodge. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Welcome into Ramon, Kayla, and Will on this Tuesday morning, a frosty Tuesday morning.
Yay.
And I tell you what, I got to learn how to be better when it comes to filling my gas tank. I did a boo-boo this morning.
What happened, Kayla?
Didn't fill my gas tank, got in trouble. Travis had to go fill up my tank this morning because my car was frosted over. And I said, I'm going to wake up this morning and own it.
Yeah.
So that is what I'm doing this morning. I am going to be better in 2025 when it comes to filling my gas tank, in all seriousness.
Yeah.
I get all you people out there that get mad at your significant others for that. So alongside our 11-year NFL veteran, Ramon Foster, Robert Walsh behind the glass making it happen. Kayla Anderson is in today as well. Will Bowling, another day off. He'll be back tomorrow, though. So that's how I got my day started. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes that cold weather, it just gets inside your head. It gives me brain fog.
So what happened? You just didn't have enough gas to get to work, or?
Yeah, okay, so not that in particular. We all have habits, right? And they're not great habits sometimes. Mm-hmm. We all have things that we kind of do throughout our lifetime. Mine has always been not keeping the gas tank full. And when I was in high school,
bad habit,
it is a bad habit. And you know what? I blame my dad because he passed along the habit to me.
Okay.
So when I was in high school, I plumb ran out of gas in the middle of the intersection up in my neighborhood. And it was like a four-way stop. Ran out of gas in the middle of the intersection, left my car, and went to school. And my grandpa was so mad, and it became this whole thing throughout my life that is always what goes back to running out of gas, is that moment. So I live on the edge a lot, and it's not by purpose in any means. It's just the one dysfunction in my brain that I'm not good at fixing, and I need to be better at in 2025. So this morning I woke up, not even thinking about it. Yesterday, it was a little bit crazy. My mind went elsewhere. When I came home, I didn't realize I didn't have enough gas.
Yeah.
For when it's cold and you wake up, you got to start the car and keep it running. Travis went out to go start the car and do all the nice things that he
Nice
did.
of him,
Very
by the
nice.
way.
Very nice of him.
Chivalry
Yeah.
ain't dead,
Right?
man.
And all of a sudden, I'm like, where is Travis? And I don't know what he's doing. And he comes back, and I'm like, what's going on? And he says, don't talk to me. And I said, oh, shoot. Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
I done effed up.
Yeah. And it was because?
I didn't have any gas.
So did he have to
I was
push the
running
car?
on. No, the gas.
Okay.
The gas got him to the gas station, but I was running on red. like this light
Like
if you're watching the
fumes.
F&M Bag Chat.
Fumes is what you were
About to say, dang, she sensed Travis had to get the gas. Now she running on the dog.
That's what
Come
I'm
on,
saying.
man.
Like, please.
I'm in the dog house this morning, okay?
Which is rare for like husband to wife. It's usually like
The other way
Yeah,
around.
the other way around. Like, yeah, that is fascinating, Kayla.
So, guys, at least I aired out my dirty laundry this morning.
Look at you opening up to the people, Bert.
I apologize.
That's fascinating. No,
My mom used to do this too, but I think it was because we were broke. I don't know. This might be a sad story now,
Love
telling it in
that.
retrospect.
Love
so
that.
we used to be riding, and my mom got a new car that would be like, you have X amount of miles till empty. And I feel like we were riding around on like 12 miles till empty for eternity. Like anytime I got in my mama's car, it was almost out of gas. And we used to joke, or I used to get scared, like, you gonna run out of gas, you gonna run out of gas. And she would say, like, no, watch, look, it's making gas. Because sometimes it would go from like, you got 8 miles to empty to 10 miles to empty.
Yeah.
So she'd be like, oh,
Yes.
we can go a little bit farther. It's okay, it made some gas for us. So I'd always be like, oh, it'll make some. And my buddies in high school were like, what the hell are you talking about? It'll make, yeah, if you leave it running long enough, sometimes it'll make some gas for you. My mom handed me a handful of change, be like, go fill the tank
Go
up.
fill the tank.
Everybody looked at me like I was stupid. Like, what do you mean the car makes gas? Why would people pay for it, you
I mean,
idiot?
God, maybe you should come up with that invention, Bert.
I'm gonna be real with you, Bert. I actually love that, man. All she's saying is this: look, no, baby, we're running on fumes right now.
Yeah.
I'm already dealing with the car. I don't need this baby whining at me that I didn't fill this thing up. She handed me like 5 quarters, 3 nickels, and 2 dimes. She's like, go fill the
I
tank.
mean, that used to do well at the gas station.
I'm telling you,
It
get you
could
back
get you
home
some
at
miles,
least.
yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
never
for
forget,
real.
like, $2 used to go a long way. We were
Yeah.
like the $2 family at
Yeah.
the gas pump, man. I will not fret. I absolutely, like, those, never mind. That's like the old times. We'll never go back to those days. We're never going back. I'm not leaning in, man. But you know how it is, too, Kayla? Like, the mornings are the worst time to fill up, or they're right before work.
I know.
Like,
I know.
I did it the other day. I actually had to like leave the pump alone. I was like, all right, I'll see you later. Like, I filled up to a certain extent, and I was just like,
Is it because you're so cold? Like you just want to get back in the car? Or
Well, I guess because you're already pressed for time, which is where I think
That's-
Travis was with
that's a
you.
good point.
You already pressed for time. You got somewhere to go, so you don't think like you think about hurry up in that moment. And when you just stopping at the gas pump, it's more leisure then. So the pressure's not on. Like the
That's
gas.
true.
The diesel pump that I used last week, I'm talking about, was the slowest. It was
don't
absolutely.
you hate those and you're trying to speed it up and
But
it's just
usually,
not going to go?
it's one of the fastest ones at the
diesels
gas
are?
station that I stop at. And this particular morning, it was just absolutely the slowest. And I think it honestly was it's just a mind game of just like, I was in a rush. I needed to get
sure.
here. And it just wasn't perfect timing, Kayla.
Yeah, no, I get it, y'all. We all have flaws, right?
Those mornings, that ain't even real. That's just like a cold-blooded mistake right there. That ain't no flaw. You and every person in America.
Yeah, you good. I don't know if that's
you
a
good.
mistake.
I'm stupid sometimes. all right?
No, listen, because
we
this
ain't
is
gonna
what
self-deprecate on
this is
that.
what
okay?
Cheyenne does. Listen, I'll make fun of Cheyenne while you're making fun of yourself. Cheyenne will be like, "Oh, I've got this great idea for dinner. Oh, I can't wait. Like, you wait, I'm going to cook you. You wait, it's going to be cooking when I get home. Guess who's going to be cooking? It's going to be me." That's what Cheyenne says.
Bragging.
So she gets home, changes to comfies, falls asleep on the couch.
Oh.
And it's like, oh, I guess I'm having a boy dinner tonight, which is a can of peas. Let me heat up this can of peas on the stove. Like,
Damn, Bert.
I wake up Cheyenne. She's like, oh, I'm just taking a nap. I'm like, honey, it's 7:30. You don't nobody take a nap in the dark. It's called sleep.
So-
You're in
So
bed.
what she do is what my wife does. I call it a little appetizer. That's what she get when she go home.
Appetizer.
A little nap.
Appetizer.
It's to sleep before. It's to sleep before bed. Like, oh, so you just gonna get you a little appetizer in? Is that what you doing?
So that's great. You got to keep those nicknames for your significant
telling you.
other. When you
That's
drive with
incredible.
Cheyenne, Cheyenne driving around town, Cheyenne loves to use them brakes. Like, you need to, but she loves to use them a little earlier and a little harder than most people. I call her
Yeah.
Slammy Sosa. She be slamming on them brakes. boy.
Slammy Sosa.
Dang.
Let's go, man. Okay, I might have to use that one.
Okay, I need a nickname then now. You all gave your wives nicknames. Like, might as well just give me one, right?
We got to give one for, it'd be like Savvy Travy or
Savvy
something.
Travy.
Something.
Some like or testy Travy in the morning. I don't
Right.
know what it is. I don't know. Red Tank Kayla.
You know what I want to say, though?
Red Tank Kayla.
Running on red.
Running on red. That's the thing about
Running
nicknames.
Red
It's got to come like in an organic moment. We're trying to
Exactly.
force it right now. We'll get
to
that.
it.
Yeah, we'll get that
It'll
for
pop
you.
up in the middle of the show, I'm sure, today.
It will, man. Little appetizer. Yeah, Kayla, that happens though, man. I've been there numerous times. I've stopped and gotten, in this era of how expensive gas is, I've stopped and got just like $5 just to get me to
too.
work. Yeah, absolutely. I've been
Okay,
there.
I'm glad I'm not the only
So hold
one.
up, you don't pump your own gas in general?
Oh, yeah, I pump my own gas.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
He just took it upon himself this morning because he was already heating up the car, and he's like, there's not enough gas to heat up the car this morning.
Damn.
So he took it to the gas station.
You must have been laser focused yesterday on something else.
Let's just say there's a lot of stuff going on yesterday. I almost swore.
Yeah,
that was a good thing
I might address it at some point too.
Yeah, you should. I would
might
love for you to address it.
too.
Don't think that I would push back on that. I'm going to push forward on it.
I might address it and see. It's fascinating. It's all I'll tell you.
Isn't it?
It's very fascinating. I'm alluding to yesterday, and not necessarily the fans' take, but a lot of our coworkers and just a lot of peers in the market. I might address it.
I'm ready
I'm trying
for
to be
it,
above
dude.
a lot of stuff, but
Being above sometimes.
yeah, I know. I think I come on the
Sometimes I
show
like
and
to
I
just let
laugh.
you go for it.
Like I like to laugh and have a good time.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people take that as
We
like
love
I'm a
that.
non-serious person. So I feel like I got to start adding a little bit extra to it.
Right?
And not to it, but to them. So
Well, whenever you're ready, you just tell me.
I might. I ain't sure.
And we'll steer the boat in that direction. We are ready to go this morning. It is Tuesday. I forgot almost what day it was, but it is a Tuesday. Not hump day quite yet. Titans moving fast on their GM search, guys. We'll speak about that here in the 620 segment. They are moving on people to round 2. We'll get into who. Yeah.
I didn't
It's
pick
like,
either one of my selections.
Yeah, and I know a couple of the ones that, a couple of the guys that people really wanted, not in the mix. And then there is a lot going on in Dallas right now. What's going on? Mike McCarthy out. Is Deion Sanders possibly in the mix for that head coaching job? Interested to get your guys' perspectives on that. And NFL coaches under the most pressure in 2025. We've got a list, and there's quite a few guys that could be coaching for their jobs next year. Austin Price of VolQuest joining us at 7:20. And then Stephen Godfrey at 9:20 as well to talk a little college football as we gear up for the championship on Monday. So we got a full packed show for you guys today. If you want to call in and give us your thoughts about, things yesterday, the interview that was had on the station, whatever you want to talk about, we're here for you this morning. 615-737-1045. You can join us in the F&M Bank chat. We are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Get along in the chat, and we love to hear your guys' thoughts.
Yes, absolutely. Can't hear it. Can't wait.
All right.
Big day. It was yesterday for the most part.
I was a little bit emotionally drained, by the way.
I wasn't. I was unbothered. I was absolutely unbothered.
Oh, I wasn't bothered.
Yeah.
I liked having conversations with people because I'm kind of an arguing person. I like to argue a little bit. And so I liked to go back and forth with people. If you want to give your opinions, I'm going to give mine.
Yeah, that's fair. But in totality, yesterday, I was somewhat busy, heard and seen a lot of stuff on social media.
Did you check out a little?
I wasn't even that I was checked out. I had my other job I had to do yesterday. And
That's
I had
right. I always forget about the other.
I had 4 or 5 jobs around this
other
piece, man. And I was just like, okay, everybody is entitled to whatever how they feel. And
sure,
everything
but
else.
we are too.
I will not apologize for anything as it pertains to the job and how we go about it or feel slighted in any type of way either. I was just like, okay. All right, do your thing. I just the way I operate at times is when don't ever feel like you have to apologize for what you say.
Sure.
It's just depending upon what you say. I can also delegate what side I want to put you on at that point too. And a lot of people got put to another side yesterday, and that's fair to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're old. I mean, the way I feel is I owe myself that to be able to do that to folks too. So
for sure,
I get it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I might and I might not. That's the way I feel right now.
That's the teaser for today.
I had gas this morning.
To it.
Yeah, no, I had gas this morning.
Now, unlike me, I did not
go.
have gas this morning. So
Nah.
That's getting cut. That's getting cut.
Damn, now I'm going to see how that goes in a way different direction.
Y'all want to hear something funny on the way out?
Please.
I saw Joseph added a new clip to the board, and I'm
boy.
going to steal it before he can play it. Hopefully. I really enjoed this.
Y'all are smoking crack.
No, you want to hear what came after that?
No,
I was listening yesterday.
Damn.
They were just Ron and Mayor were going back and forth, and Bab said, "Hit it again if you
Y'all are
can."
smoking crack.
And Ron said, "And it's good too."
My goodness. Wait, was this yesterday?
It was
They're gonna do
yesterday.
me like that.
Dude, that is going to get played over and over
my
and over.
degenerate-
Good, too.
My degenerate mind is like looking at the pictures from the 80s. Yeah, it probably was.
Yeah. Goodness gracious.
We can say that in the 6 o'clock. Probably not when the
we
kids
are
get up.
degenerates on this show, and that's okay. All right, when we return, we will get into the Titans, what they are doing in terms of round 2 interviews. That is next on RKW 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, it's Will Bowling. Is your heating system keeping up with the colder weather? Well, available 24/7, 365, the professional Lee Company team is here to help. And over the weekend, you probably learned again whether or not your heating system was ready for the blast of cold air we got here in Middle Tennessee. The Lee Company technicians will perform a 22-point inspection as well as seasonal cleaning and maintenance to keep your home running efficiently this winter. Even better, save $30 on your next heating tune-up visit today. That's $30 off on your home's next heating service. You got to contact Lee Company at 615-567-1000 or online at leecompany.com for an appointment to keep your home's heating in check. I love working with Lee Company, a local business that has been here in this community since 1944 with over 80 years of experience. Let them take care of your heating system this winter. 615-567-1000 online at leecompany.com. That's Lee Company. All you need.
Welcome back into RKW. Getting you going out the door on this fine Tuesday morning. Give yourself some time to defrost the windows, whatever you need to do, because it is a chilly one out there today.
Speaking of which, too, we did not even bring them up just with. Speaking of chilly, because they were ice cold. Ribs? They were ice cold last night. I know we're saving it to the last segment, but what in the hell was going on with Minnesota?
Yeah, like you said, we'll definitely get to that, but I'm going to tell you one thing, Ramon, about that. I am not going back. When I say a quarterback sucks in this league, a quarterback sucks in this league. And I am not going to go back on it anymore because one thing I have been right on, I'm not right on a lot, but one thing I'm right on is quarterbacks. And I said Sam Darnold was a redheaded stepchild, and by golly, he's a redheaded stepchild.
And no offense to any redheads out here. We love you all.
I love redheads. I actually have some in my family, but I feel like that just drove me crazy last night, watching him and just completely melt again on the national stage.
Believe what you're saying is, believe what your eyes are showing you. That was golly, is thinking Tebow can really be that good, and eventually he goes right back to throwing it like Uncle Rico.
Yeah.
Like, shout out to Tebow, great guy, very inspirational. He's doing a lot of great stuff around the nation and everything.
Not a good NFL player.
But man, I see our guy Duck Falling in the chat right now. I'm out on Darnold. Imagine paying that man $55 million a year, and this is what he would bring to Nashville.
What, to come beat Tannehill in the playoffs?
I'm just saying, I know.
What are we doing here?
I know we gonna get to it, but I had no way of believing he'd be that last night. And again, it does show the quarterback and the talent of the quarterbacks matters.
Yeah.
Like, you say what you want about Kevin O'Connell as a head coach, as a playmaker, play caller, and everything else. If you ain't got the right guy, it ain't gonna work.
Nope.
It's not going to work. No matter how he got two of the best young wide receivers in the league around him, Sam Darnold, and a decision will be made about Sam Darnold moving forward as we speak about the Titans GM search here in a minute. And I think we're okay. We'll pass on that.
I think
we'll talk more about it, though. I'm sure, right, Kayla?
Oh yeah, we'll do a Monday night recap here at the end of the hour. But I'm just gonna say this, Moan. I never was fully in on really giving Sam Darnold.
Now
I'm just giving him. Now I'm just giving another name.
I mean, Sam
Darnold.
He got his chain snatched last night, though. If we're being honest.
I mean, really, you go back to the last game and on prime time against Detroit, they got embarrassed there as well.
Yeah.
So when the bright lights shine, he continues to kind of turn back into a pumpkin of what he was when he was drafted. So yeah, we'll get to it, but I'm not in the Sam Darnold sweepstakes at this point.
Yeah, he had us. He had us for a while. Bert, did you watch any of it last night too?
I did. Yeah, I was more impressed with the Rams defense than anything. 9 sacks on the day, and I was like, oh yeah, it's probably Jared Verse got a couple of these, and then Jared Verse didn't even do much of it. Like it was just they had Byron Young, they had a bunch of I was super impressed with that defense.
Verse had that scoop and score. I'll say this too: the two dudes that I know we loved last year covering and in the pre-draft at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Braden Fisk.
I remember you talking about it.
Big time sack last night, and also too, you couldn't get him, but Jared Verse too.
Yep.
So the Rams continue to just stack dudes like that, man.
And Stafford continues to just be Stafford. I mean, he's not like blowing you away, but he gets the job done.
He ain't hurting you.
No.
Any guesses on the last time there were 9 sacks in a playoff game?
9 sacks. Hold up, wait.
The Titans against the Bengals.
Correct.
And they lost that game.
Oh my gosh. The Titans versus the Bengals. 9 sacks?
That is the record. That is the NFL playoff record. That is shared by 6 teams, but only 2 in the 2020s.
Can I just ask you real quick, am I on that team in my era and on that list?
No, all the rest of them.
Please no.
All the rest of them were like 1967, 1985, 1987, 1994. You're safe.
Woo!
as he wipes the brow off his
I ain't
sweat.
gonna lie, you do not want to be attached to that. Like, we've had 5-sack
No.
games and stuff like that. Like, every team gets got, but you don't want to be on the record books or nothing like that.
Well, and what stinks for the Titans in that game is like you want to be on the record books usually for that as a defense,
As a
right?
defense.
But then you don't go on to win that game. Like that's got to be a nail in your foot too.
Yeah,
in that
it does. It does. That sucks. And also, too, you mentioned Matthew Stafford. Well, I know we got to recap though, but I can't go without saying this. What's a forward pass? Did y'all see the Matthew Stafford throw? Like
Yes.
to Puka Nacua,
Yes.
who was in the area?
Because they would have scored on that.
Well, it was the flick of the wrist is what did it.
It was the
That
flick of
was
the wrist.
the flick. It was that was probably one of the most pissed off
Yeah.
like I had been about a call, like where the defense, well, I said like, all right, I'm an offensive guy. And I was just thinking to myself, like, the defense really does get screwed out of a
Yeah.
lot of things. That was one of them.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be able to just that blew my mind. I will not front last night. That call right there blew my
I'm
mind.
with you on that.
On that flick of the wrist screen. He was in the area.
Yep.
It followed the rules, but people fight over stuff like that. Like,
You probably would have. Huh?
I'd have been livid. I was livid for them last night. I see Andrew put in that. It was throwing motion.
Throwing motion.
I was livid for them last night. Absolutely was. But let's do some work, Kel.
I guess I like dogging on Sam Darnold. That's fine. We can do that all day.
Yeah, we can do that later. No doubt.
So the Tennessee Titans are moving along in terms of their GM search pretty fast, I would say, and they need to, right? Because they've got a lot of work to do here as they have the number 1 overall pick. So the latest, before I get to the 6 of 10 interviews coming back for round 2, Albert Breer last night said that the Titans will start their second round of general manager interviews with Colts assistant general manager Ed Dodds and Bills director of player personnel Terrence Gray. That starts today in Nashville. Also noted by Breer, owner Amy Adams Strunk will be involved in this round. She was not involved in the first round. So I mentioned those 2 names to you in terms of Gray and Dodds. Also on that list, Mike Borgonzi of the Chiefs, Ian Cunningham, we spoke a lot about, of the Bears, who was also kind of in the mix last year, John Skytech of the Bucks, and then John Eric Sullivan of the Packers. That's a name that came on a little bit later. It was reported that he was going to interview, but no one had really clarified that he had done the interviews.
John Eric Sullivan?
Right, and that's the connection directly with Chad Brinker.
Yeah.
So...
fascinating right there.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll say this. The 2 guys that I mentioned yesterday, Reggie McKenzie and Dimitroff yesterday, X them out. I can understand why, too, because those dudes...
why?
Those dudes got a lot of experience. Those dudes have actually been in a position that a guy like Chad Brinker's been. And the way I look at it is, in a sense, like... would you be hiring a guy to take your job at some point, too? Or can you control those guys to do the job that you want them to do, in a sense? That's the way I viewed those 2 guys. I like them because I think this franchise needs a little bit of stability, a little bit of wisdom behind it. Like, there's a lot of firsts that's going on with this franchise right now in the front office and, like, coaches. You know what I'm saying? Like, Chad Brinker's first time doing this job right here. It was Rand's first time doing this job right here. You had Brian Callahan's first time being on the sideline play caller. You got Denard Wilson's first time being a play caller. You have special teams coach Anderson. First time. Like, there's a lot of firsts.
That's a good point.
That are happening with this team right now, and we're expecting Super Bowl caliber results out of it for a bunch of guys that haven't been in these positions before. And I thought a guy like Dimitroff or McKenzie would at least give guidance, wisdom, maturity, settle it up a little bit. But because of that, I can see where it's just like that's too much power. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that situation to me, and I ain't mad at it, but I somewhat expected it. I like those 2 candidates, though, but I can get why they would go in this direction, too.
Yeah, and also added to that list that didn't make the cut was Kat Hickman of the Browns and Matt Berry of the Seahawks. Ramon, for me, when you're looking at this hire, you have to get it right because you have struck out the last couple times.
Right.
And I know John was here for a while and he did some good things, but he also left this franchise in the end in really bad shape. And you've been cleaning up ever since and thought you got in the right guys. And then, you're letting the newest general manager, who only was here for 2 years and really had one full draft class by himself, without Vrabel attached to it. And he's gone now. And like you said, there is still a lot of newness. So what is the plan for that? Do you bring in someone that doesn't have a lot of experience, but maybe is more on point with what this day and age NFL is? And maybe it's because it's more so a relationship with Chad Brinker, because let's just also mention, we can't shy away from the fact that there's been power struggles within this organization. That is duly noted. And so you have to get both of those things right, or you're going to keep on circling back to this position and trying to fill it. And you're not going to be a winning franchise by doing that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. There has been a little bit, from what we can see, power struggle.
Absolutely.
Just a misunderstanding of jobs and duties, it seems like to me. And it just seems like, well, you get one guy, then the other guy comes behind him. And it's that. And I'm with you on that one. So the guy that you want to hire, the guy that jumps off the page to me, if he's going to get a second round interview, is John Eric Sullivan.
Yes.
Immediately, I'm going to him in his position right there. Title, Vice President of Player Personnel. He's only had one title. He's been at Green Bay since, He's been in Green Bay for 21 seasons.
Yeah.
Right? And he get an opportunity to branch himself out and be in a role to where, hey, Chad's big dog now. Chad can delegate, hey, this is what I want you to do, probably raise your pay, give you, hey, president instead of vice president of player personnel. Like, these are the things he may end up getting, but he's also a guy that you can put in a role specifically and say, this is what I want you to do. Like, the guys that I mentioned yesterday, McKenzie and Dimitroff, those dudes have done whole-scale things. You know what I'm saying?
They kind of have it set in their mind, right?
They've done a lot more of those things. He jumps off the page to me. Also, I got a correction myself yesterday, too. I will admit mistakes.
Yeah.
I brought up Mike Borgonzi yesterday.
Yes.
I was blind to the fact that he'd been there since 2009 in Kansas City. So he has.
I didn't even remember what did you say?
I was just like, has he? I was like, he's been under the veil of Patrick Mahomes, like, for a very long time. How long has he been there? But he's been there through all of it, through the Eric Berries, through Alex Smiths. He's seen Kansas City be up, be down, change coaches. He's done all of these things. So there's a lot of experience in a guy like him. It does, make me question just a little bit if he's willing to actually take. Borgonzi's on the second wave of interviews.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So his title right now is assistant general manager. Would he take a lateral job here and do the grunt work of, hey, setting up the draft board for a guy like Chad Brinker, and then also passing it to Chad and Chad either saying yes or no? You see what I'm saying? Like, these people come with a lot of prestige. He's a 3-time Super Bowl winner. He's helped build up the Kansas City Chiefs. Doesn't mean you're going to duplicate it. But that's another guy that jumps off the page to me. And I'll just keep a short list too. The other guy, in my opinion, I think it is John Spytek. He's been.
You've liked him.
Yeah, he's a guy that's been with Tampa Bay for a very long time. Yeah. He's drafted well with the players they've gotten. I think people are saying, Vita Vea, turning him into an all-pro guy. Kalijah Kancey's looking like one of those dudes. The restructuring of contracts with players that they've had for a while. Like, keeping a guy like Mike Evans under your fold.
That in itself is crazy that they have been able to do that and get the production.
Absolutely. And not just using, because Mike Evans is getting up there in age, but still understanding, this guy's got a lot of good left in his career. And then on the other side of that, they struck out on quarterbacks, Kyle Trask. But they also landed Tom Brady, right? And then
got him a Super Bowl, didn't it?
Brought him a Super Bowl. So they understand a guy like him, John Spytek, the moves it takes to actually keep a franchise afloat. I think they had a couple of bad years after Tom Brady, but now they find themselves taking another risk on a guy in Baker Mayfield, and look how that turned out for him too.
Yeah. So
the decisions of who's going to be, what's the title that's going to be given to him? Assistant general manager?
I mean, honestly.
Player personnel?
No. I mean, the NFL looked at what the description was and deemed it as a general manager job. But can we really say that?
I know everybody has a boss.
Can we really say that when we know that Chad Brinker has final say on the roster? That's why I think it's extremely important, if that is the case, and that is what it is, then it has to be somebody that understands Chad Brinker, the way that he works, doesn't take it, in terms of an ego punch when Chad rides something in terms of a decision. Y'all, this happens. So you have to have somebody who respects you and vice versa. And that's why I'm with you. I go to John Eric Sullivan, not only just because of the relationship. He clearly has a lot of experience in a very successful franchise that has been stable for a long time. But I just think, Ramon, at this point, you've got to find people that are on the same page. And clearly that has not been the case in the past few years.
The guy that fits that, honestly, is John Eric Sullivan.
It is.
He's National Football Scout and representative. He's checked every box as it pertains to high enough, but not at the highest of his career so far. He is on the Green Bay Packers page as vice president of player personnel. Giving him a title of GM satisfies pay, satisfies roles, and probably he's in a position where he can delegate guys moving forward. That's where I'm at with him. Spytek is another one of those guys to me. He's already an assistant general manager role, has been in a place where they've had a lot of ups and downs. That's what I'm looking for as far as the guys that are fit to actually do this job. Because again, Chad seems to have a good bit of power and influence over it. He gets last say over the roster, then you can't have a guy that's very prideful about his job. I do like, after studying it a little bit more, Mike Borgonzi of Kansas City. Because
he just comes with so much experience, right?
But the other side of that, though, for me with Borgonzi is this. I do think they've done well in the trenches, right? And then here's the other thing, too. I don't know how much involvement he's had actually in those situations and those decisions being made too. But I do know this. They took a guy recently, Trey Smith. They took Isaiah Pacheco, found a replacement at running back real quick. The idea that, look, you got Alex Smith, but man, if we can get a Patrick Mahomes, they've done a lot of those things. They've hit on Tyreek Hill. They found Chris Jones. They found Eric Reed. They've made deals for these types of guys. And one thing you can't say is, at least defensively, I got to give it to them. They've been able to always replace the linebackers. They always find a rusher off the edge from Tamba Ali.
Also, their secondary. They find a lot of gems. One came from Washington State and Jaden Hicks that continued to fall, and now he's a piece that they can put in when they need him. And he's in the depth chart. Yeah. And he's a solid piece.
From Tamba Ali, he's been a part of all these things, like I said, but you're underneath the veil right now of Patrick Mahomes. And the need to find him a receiver. Okay, you got Xavier Worthy, you lost nothing. So they know how to operate. It's just, okay, what can you do for a franchise that's in this position? Yeah. And I'll go back even further, too, to look at what Kansas City was in about 2009, their wins and losses, just to see if there's been a steady track of moving up. He's dealt with coaching changes, too. Yep. So I'll do that in a break and have a little bit more information on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to some of that coming up on the other side. Plus, we'll continue to get into what happened last night on Monday Night Football. Who's hot going into the next round of divisional playoffs? We'll get your thoughts on that, and excited to pick your guys' brains as well. It's RK Tubb on 104.5 The Zone. It is a Tuesday, guys. Hey, it's Kayla Anderson with my friends at WeGrowHair.com. It is the new year, and maybe you have some new goals. You definitely need to check out We Grow Hair. I have been on my hair growth journey for probably 8 months now. It's going by quickly, and I am definitely seeing the growth along my hairline. That was something that I went in there, and that was the immediate problem I wanted to fix. So they have everything when it comes to what you want to do for your hair, right? There's not just one treatment. You've definitely got to check out their PRP treatments. Those are really good in terms of helping hair growth 1 to 2 months. They also have their laser treatments. That's a situation I've been doing probably for the last several months, and that is really good in terms of just getting your hair to grow back over time. You're in and out in really a matter of like 45 minutes at the most. So if you want to go along your hair grow journey in the new year in 2025, definitely check out my friends from We Grow Hair. You can contact them at 615-376-6010. You can schedule a free consultation at wegrowhair.com. Again, it's 615-376-6010 and tell them that Kayla sent you. Wrapping up hour one here on RKW on this Tuesday morning.
I found a little nugget too, Kayla.
I know.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead
I
and
wanted
go
to
with
say
the intro.
you did a little research here, which you always do, bringing some nuggets to the show this morning in our past conversation in this last segment about the general managers that are in the mix for the Tennessee Titans. I should say in the mix for that job here. So what's the nugget you got?
The little nugget that I found, Kayla, was I told you I was looking at Mark Borgonzi yesterday, who's been in the Kansas City Chiefs front office for a while. It has it on his record as in 2009, he was the administrator of college scouting, whatever that role is. And then in 2010, he went to manager football operations. Yep. And after that, he was Kansas City pro scout. So he's worked his way up and understand probably how to look at tape and do a lot of things. I always say, like, this league is a fraternity. Everybody's interconnected one way or the other, like we just are.
Exactly.
Right? So we have a guy who is one of the finalists, I think, he's got a second round of interviews for the Titans for the GM job, right?
Yep.
So I'm looking at Borgonzi's past. So I was like, let me go see if they've dealt with passing and, like failures and stuff like that in Kansas City, because Kansas City hadn't always been this good. I ain't going to say laugh at the game, but they weren't that, is the way I look at Kansas City, right? And then they got really good. And
now they're going for 3 straight.
And they still are, right? Yeah. But that year, it was Todd Haley who was the head coach. They were 4-12 that year. You also want to know who's the assistant head coach?
Who?
Maurice Carthon.
No way.
Yes. So there's been a run-in between Mark Borgonzi and also Rand's dad. And Rand was here, and Mark Borgonzi is in a position to potentially be the GM of the team,
that's wild. That's a wild
nugget.
Who
also worked with Rand Carthon's father as the assistant head coach. And he was assistant head coach from 2009. He was 10. He was 11 and 12 under Romeo Crennel. And, 13 he was gone. So he's been there for a while.
Romeo Crennel probably has one of the all-time football bellies of all time.
He really does.
Between him and the O-line coach from Cleveland?
For the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Was that Coach Wiley? Who was that? Yeah.
Y'all ever seen the belly or a man in some short gray shorts until you seen Coach Karl Mock? Okay, now that's an NFL legend right there. Karl Mock is a different. Karl Mock. I had him at the East-West Shrine Bowl in 2009, man. But 6 degrees of separation at all times, man. So Mike Borgonzi, of course, probably knows as many people as anybody around the league right there. I thought that was fascinating to see Maurice Carthon on that staff.
I honestly didn't really know that I guess I don't remember this from the whole GM hire. I didn't know his dad was like in upper management.
Yeah, absolutely. Played as a player 8 years also, so he's been in the league for a while. He was also offensive coordinator for Dallas, Detroit, and Cleveland. Football family. Guy don't know football though. He's lazy as hell from what I heard.
When you guys played that yesterday,
that was
by
good,
the way,
Bert. I appreciate you
I was
indulging.
laughing
no problem. I thought it was funny.
hard.
That was good, man.
And Rand got a kick out of it too. He was like, he was a good sport.
Why you ain't at work? Why you ain't at work?
Yeah,
that was good.
That was good stuff. And like you said though, and I think he mentioned it also in that interview. It is a small world.
It's a very small world
in this league, so you don't want to burn bridges, just like any job, really.
Yeah.
In our business as well. So, because you never know who you're going to come circle back around to and land.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Last night, we discussed it a little bit in the last segment in terms of Sam Darnold, but I was a little surprised with the Vikings just getting pretty much embarrassed on a national stage again in prime time. 27-9, the Los Angeles Rams take down the Vikings in the wild card round. That was in Arizona, by the way, because of the fires that have been.
Tough.
Yeah, it's a really tough situation. I won't get into all that, but I'll tell you this much. I know it has a lot of emotional toll on some of these players that are living in LA, that have family there, and just for the whole community as a whole. So it almost felt like a rallying cry for Los Angeles last night for that team to come out and do what they did to the Vikings. But Sam Darnold, man, not good. 25 for 40, 245, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But it just felt like he was losing the ball. He had a fumble as well that was lost. I just felt like what happened to the Sam Darnold that we've seen throughout the season for the most part, be able to lead this Vikings team to wins.
And that's the thing, though, too, in this league, man, pressure. Like, big moments.
Yeah.
Like, that's where legends are made. Like, I do think that was a big moment. You had the same adjustment that LA had. I mean, it was probably the same amount of travel from, from Minnesota to Arizona, maybe 30, 45 minutes difference or something like that, depending upon it. Big-time players must play in big-time games really friggin' good.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Darnold had the worst day to have a bad game.
Yeah, he did.
Not just that, but just bad play. The close-ups of the camera crew, boy, y'all were good. Watching his eyes go wide, all I thought, and it was...
He was nervous, I feel like.
It was that. I was thinking, that looks like the New York Jets, Sam Darnold.
That looks like the first-round bust, Sam Darnold.
It did, and I think there's a lot to be had out of Sam Darnold, but what I think we saw last night, his ceiling's lower than we think. Like, to be surrounded by that team, and not just that offense, but that defense. That defense in Minnesota is solid. They should have one of the hottest commodities in the coaching search this upcoming coaching search season with Brian Flores. Like, you got they check every box as a team. They were this close to being the number 1 overall seed with the bye. I don't know if there was hangover from that, a quick adjustment on flight and playing in a different area. Hell, you was already going to be on the road anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference if it's Arizona or LA.
And I thought the crowds for both of them made you go on silent count.
There was a ton of, I thought there were more Viking fans. Is from the broadcast is what they said.
He had, to me, the worst time to have a bad game.
Yeah.
Like, one of them is whenever I think he threw an interception. He did something, and he cut over to coach Kevin O'Connell, and he said, well, crap, and out of those words. And I was just like, yep, that's how we all feel.
At that point. And Moan,
he couldn't find a spot at all.
His own line did not do him any favors. Look, he was sacked nine times for 82 yards. The game before, we saw some, issues with the line as well. But I'm curious, coming from a lineman, like, how does your line just all of a sudden decide that they're not going to protect you? I don't think it's all on the line either.
He couldn't find a spot.
Exactly.
So Bert brought it up earlier, too. Like, it's that defense from the Rams.
Was turned up.
Was on fire, man. By the way, one of my former coaches, Carnell Lake's son, is on that team. I had no idea he had a kid that was in college, and now that's in the NFL. And he's playing for the Rams. Yeah, absolutely.
No
Super
kidding.
dope, man. Akila Weatherspoon. Bert, hadn't he played for both our franchises, too?
Not the Ravens.
He didn't play for the Ravens. Y'all just burned him. That's what that was.
I don't know about that.
He played lights out last night.
Yeah, he led all tacklers.
He could not find his spot.
Yeah.
You said Akila Witherspoon led all tackles?
Quentin Lake.
Quentin Lake balled. NFL legacy kid, man. Again, this league is interconnected like crazy.
Yeah, so I don't know about you guys, but Minnesota they're such a good regular season team.
Yeah.
But once they hit the playoffs, I think Minnesota just can't find ways to get over the hump. And I know there's plenty of teams like that. I mean, the Los Angeles Chargers are in that boat too.
They were. I'm looking up something. I don't want you to go to break without me finding it real quick. I got it.
You got it?
Yeah. Somebody was having a grand old time last night. You know how people preying on your downfall? There was one that was doing it last night, man, a young fella, and I love him for it because this is also the league, man. J.J. McCarthy tweeted out, and it is still up.
I didn't see this.
He put Amor Fati. That means apparently to some that are saying it means love of fate. He's basically saying this was meant to happen.
I just saw it. It just popped up on my Twitter.
Basically, this was meant to happen.
Look at that.
J.J. McCarthy praying on his downfall. What you don't want to see, and I'll be honest with you, this is how the league goes. You don't want to see the guy that's in for you do too much better than you.
Absolutely not.
You want the team to do good, but all it was going to do is knock him even more.
And that's the thing. They were talking about, honestly, bringing Sam Darnold back. There was even talk of possibly trading J.J. McCarthy. And again, we don't know exactly what's going to happen yet, but the last two impressions that Sam Darnold leaves on you, they're not good ones. And you really got to take some time to figure out what you're going to do if you're that franchise.
J.J. McCarthy, happy as heck this morning.
Absolutely. It is Ramon, Kayla, Will wrapping up hour one here. We'll come back with a little bit of talk Where do we want to go with this? How about the Cowboys? Dysfunction. We're speaking of dysfunction in certain situations. That is the Cowboys.
Yeah.
All together. So we'll get into that. And Deion Sanders, how could that possibly affect the Titans if Deion Sanders goes to Dallas? We'll get into that and much more here on RKW 104.5 The Zone.
What's going on? 7:03. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Final game of the wild card round wrapped up last night with the Rams taking down the Vikings 27-9. Rams pushed the score early, outscoring the Vikings in the first half 24-3. Rams are going to now go to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles, and the Vikings have a quarterback decision to make between Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy. Officially, we got our divisional round schedule on Saturday. We're going to start the week off with Texans at Chiefs. That's at 4:30. Then the night game, 8 o'clock, Commanders at Lions. On Sunday, Rams at Eagles with a 3 o'clock kick. And for the night game, Ravens go to Bills at 6:30 Eastern time. So that'll be 5:30 for us. I like that. And the Titans whittling down that list of general managers as they approach the deadline. They got to sign somebody quick before Senior Bowl. Terrence Gray of Bills Director Player Personnel, Assistant General Manager Ian Cunningham, Bucks Assistant General Manager John Spytek, Chiefs Assistant General Manager Mike Borgonzi, Colts Assistant General Manager Ed Dodds, and Packers VP of Player Personnel John Eric Sullivan. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Happy Tuesday morning and welcome into hour 2 of Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Ramon Foster in the building. Robert Walsh, better known as Bert, behind the glass, making it all happen. I'm Kayla Anderson. Will bowling out today. He'll be back tomorrow. And we've got some news in terms of the Cowboys. I feel like they just never go off the radar. Ever, right? But it's usually at this point, like, it's all just destructive news. It's all just like one thing that's going to continue to not allow them to win championships because they just can't get it right there.
No.
They can't figure it out. Jerry Jones can't get out of his own way, and now they've fired Mike McCarthy. Ramon?
After the way I saw it broken down yesterday, the Mike McCarthy firing happened as two sides were basically meeting in a room, having a conversation about what they did and did not want, powers and all those type of things, changes, and they never could come to an agreement, so the conversation ended, and Mike McCarthy was on his way. It seems to me that Jerry Jones is going to try to make it work.
I thought so.
The way it's being reported is that Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy wanted to make it work, but it seems like Jerry wanted a lot of control or either wanted some changes.
Oh, surprise, right?
Yeah, surprise.
That word control and Jerry.
And one of their legendary Ring of Honor Hall of Famers, Troy Aikman, had some strong comments about that. I don't know if it's so strong, but I guess you don't expect the franchise quarterback. It's a little damning. Yeah, it was a little damning is what you would call it. To have a franchise quarterback like him say what he said about the job.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's kind of stupid, too. Like, I know he's my daddy and all, but, like, it doesn't makes zero sense to me to block an interview just to be a jerk where he could have gone and talked to them, and you knew, hey, we're not really going to see eye to eye on this. And who cares how long you sign him for, Jerry?
Yep.
You've got more money than God over there, and you won't spend. Just pay the guy. Who gives a crap? Oh, about cuss. Who gives a crap?
I guess that makes two of us today.
Just pay the guy his money, like, if it's that big of a deal. Because, obviously, like you said, Ramon, he did want to bring him back. They just couldn't agree on the length of the contract term. So, make a decision.
And by the way, I would really wanted to chime in there on what Troy Aikman said quick.
Yeah.
He was just saying how he loved the Cowboys. He played there 12 years. He wishes them well, but he says for that to be a coveted job at this point, I'm not sure I would necessarily agree with that.
Yeah. Do we have that audio? We don't have it queued up. It's cool, Kayla. I think summarized
That's exactly
it pretty good.
it was pretty short and to the point, but that's what he said.
Real quick again, because we're speaking about the Dallas Cowboys. We're speaking about Jerry Jones. We're speaking about the star, a.k.a. America's team. Like, they are, you got to give them credit as much as you can hate them. They are probably
they're a brand. I mean, the biggest brand. A lot of people would argue with that, of course, right? But they are, I think. And that, like, you see them everywhere. The Dallas Cowboys. Like, Jerry Jones has done a really good job of making that team
very relevant and very big. So, yeah, and you'd expect, Kayla, like taking that job, clap your hands together. Man, I'm ready to go. I love this position. And Troy Aikman said, what again, Kayla? Mm-hmm. What did he say again?
Oh, you want me to repeat that?
Yeah, please.
Quote, I love the Dallas Cowboys. I played there for 12 years. I wish them well. But to say that is a coveted job, I'm not sure I would necessarily agree with that.
That's a word.
That's coming from Troy Aikman.
Yeah.
Like one of your best representations of the franchise. And for him to feel like that at this point,
yeah,
he's not wrong, though.
And see, here's the thing, though, too. Why is Troy Aikman saying that about that particular job is where I'm at. And it goes, to me, to the over-involvement of front offices, ownership, and just the nonstop chattering from outside voices that seem to make very emotional decisions. You see where I'm going at?
I know exactly where you're going with that.
Like, it seems to me like that's what a little bit like what this franchise here is somewhat dealt with, is you got to keep football, and you need to keep, like, football business. Football business. Yeah. If you hire people to do their jobs, right? This is Troy Aikman saying this about his former boss, he's in the Hall of Fame with them. Like, they're on the same levels as far as the football world goes. Now, Jerry, as you mentioned, Bird, money is way different. His influence probably in Capitol Hill is way different than the Troy Aikman. But as it pertains to, like, football, like, I've always heard, like, guys on the, like, people that have good programs that win often. And Dallas Cowboys ain't been bad. They just ain't gotten to the championship and stuff like that the way they expect themselves to do year in and year out. But when you start nitpicking everything about what your coaches are doing, what your players should be doing, involving yourself in the game plan, you diminish the job. You diminish that person. Like, men have a sense of pride about them as it pertains to, like, how they go about their business and work and stuff like that, especially coaches, because it's such a volatile profession anyway. And the fact that you insert yourself time and time again in what you asked me to do as a head coach or in any other position in a franchise, that makes me feel like, well, hell, why don't you just do the job? So I think it was very fair to hear, finally somebody like Troy Aikman mention that about a guy. A
prominent name like that people respect.
Because what happens on the Twitters, right, or the social medias is this. Everybody usually says what, and I hate that that's the case, but the Cowboys won't win until, like, Jerry Jones releases it. And that's what it seems like it feels like with how they've gone about it as of late, like paying Dak. And, Jerry's worked on a lot of emotions, it seemed like. And when you involve emotions in, like, just wins and losses, you really skew the process up. You really do. And it was fascinating. And like I said, I think we all who cover the Titans here somewhat see a little bit of that. With how stuff is, like we've mentioned as of late, get a head coach, get a GM, fire the head coach, hire another head coach. Fire the GM, get another GM. Like, it's only so much of that you can do until you have one of your legacy guys like a Troy Aikman say, it's like, nah, I probably wouldn't want that job. So when we're speaking about right now, the Titans' second round of interviews with these GMs, like, you got to ask yourself, like, who wants that job? Like, of course, Reggie McKenzie and Dimitroff, the former Falcons GM, probably have a little bit more flex and can't be controlled the way like. So I can get a situation where you see I can't control a guy like that, or, hey, it won't be a fit because the role diminishes what they actually want to do. It's just a fascinating approach to the ones that win consistently and have stability versus the ones that don't.
Yeah, and that's a very good point you made. And it's one thing to be a name and to have the publicity that comes along with that. It's another thing to have the name and actually be getting it done on the field in the playoffs and to be winning, the way that you're supposed to that matches your brand. The Packers, the Ravens.
I know.
They're those type of organizations, right?
As
right
of late,
now, the
Kansas City has
Chiefs
found a way.
Yes, exactly. So when it comes to this situation in Dallas, too, what's crazy about it is just assuming that Mike McCarthy was going to just, like, bow down to whatever deal that you gave him and clearly put yourself now behind everything because now they're behind the hiring or the coaching search.
Yeah.
I mean, we're like 2 weeks in now, and they're these coaches, the hot commodity coaches that people want. They're going to other places and are further along in their process. Now, here's where things get interesting. Jordan Schultz put out a tweet last night, and he said that Cowboys owner Jerry Jones has spoken to Colorado head coach Deion Sanders about the team's head coaching vacancy, and discussions are expected to continue regarding the possibility of him becoming the next head coach. Coach Prime is considered to be a top candidate, although the Cowboys do plan to interview other candidates. This is where it could get really interesting with Deion Sanders. If he does indeed go to Dallas, you know he wants to get Shedeur. I mean, that's what he wants to do, right? He wants the opportunity to coach his son. That's where the Titans could be in a really interesting spot in terms of getting a lot back for them trading up to get that number one pick. This is a lot has to happen to get to that point, but it is a possibility.
Yeah, I don't have the math system in front of me right now that determines what it takes or what they'll have to give up to go from 12 to 1. But I guarantee it's a lot.
It is
if
a
the
lot.
Dallas Cowboys, because here's the thing. If I am Chad Brinker and I know one of the things they want is like picks on top of picks, right?
He made that clear specifically.
They want picks and they want a ton of them, right? Well, the Dallas Cowboys are going to have to pay a handsome fee to get that number one overall pick, because if I'm the Titans, I'll just take them. Yeah, okay. So what? You want to coach your kid? Well, guess what? And I think that's one of the biggest issues that Deion Sanders is going to run into with the head coaching jobs that that he's been mentioned around. Vegas, going from 6 to 1, right? That's another conversation that's got to be had. The Titans right now have the golden key. They do. There's no other way around it, especially if you want to do business with Deion Sanders. Like 12 to 1, I saw some people speaking about it. You probably got to send Dak. At least you get a guy.
I did see that scenario.
You got to send Dak, but do the Titans want to pay his money?
So if you buy into the Jimmy Johnson valuation trademark, so the Titans' first-round pick, the first overall pick, has 3,000 points of value. Dallas's 12th overall pick has 1,200. So they would have to come up off another first-round pick. Their second-round pick is only worth 460, so that would be 16. They would have to come off 1,400 more points of picks worth of those points.
Does a player does that Jimmy Johnson metric have like a player involved?
No, it
don't have that.
It doesn't.
Okay.
But like to me, this is the season where everybody's like, "Who says no? Who says no?" I say no because if you're trading up for a quarterback, you don't need that guy anymore. I'm doing you a favor taking him off your books. Mm-hmm. Dak Prescott does nothing for me trade value wise. It's like Brock Osweiler. Remember when the Cleveland Browns took his contract off and they get the Houston Texans gave them a pick to do so. Like, I feel like you would have to pay me to take Dak Prescott at this point, because why would I just not find somebody else and try to grow with them instead of fixing a 30-year-old's mistakes? You know, give me a clean slate rather than a dog who can't learn new tricks.
Yeah.
But is that one of the biggest conundrums as it pertains to Deion Sanders, you think, with these types of jobs?
If he takes the job, like he wants his kid, and he's going to do everything to try to get that.
You lose leverage big time.
Yeah, but if they're going to hire him and do that, then that's what comes along with it.
I mean, here's the thing, too. I don't think the NFL have a luxury tax, but Jerry can pay it. Bert just said it, right? He can afford to pay whatever they want.
Although he has not been wanting to pay things as of late. He's been a little bit cheaper when it comes to his pocketbook
The good thing about Deion is this is a win-win for him either way. Either Colorado ponies up and gives him a big-ass contract extension, or Jerry backs up the Brinks truck, trades away all the assets, and gets his son. So it's a win for Deion either way.
And you know what it also does? It just continues to build a brand. And that, and more than anything, I know Jerry won another ring before he passes away, but like you at least get a big old burst of like just marketing.
Absolutely. Coming up next here on RKW, speaking of coaches in the NFL, there are some coaches that are going to be on the hot seat next season, no doubt. Who are those picks? We'll give ours. That's coming up next on RKW here on 104.5 The Zone.
Is your concrete in need of repair? Maybe your sidewalk is shifting. Your driveway probably is cracked or sinking, or your porch steps, maybe they've moved on you. Shifting concrete can create a dangerous situation and trip hazard around your home. It's also just a big eyesore. It's Ramon Foster, and whatever's going on with your concrete, call United Structural Systems. Ask them about their polyurethane foam injections. You've heard about USS for a long time, and that's the same company that's provided superior foundation repair and waterproofing to Middle Tennessee since 1994. Well, guess what? They can also fix your sunken or settling concrete. USS uses polyurethane foam injections to lift and repair your sinking concrete in a matter of minutes. Lifting concrete, listen to me, can be walked on immediately or even driven on after 30 minutes. So don't go through that long, expensive process of ripping out and replacing concrete. Like, reach out to people that I trust, man. You can simply go to the website at ussTN.com. That's ussTN.com, or call them, like I say, the old school way at 615-488-7855. United Structural Systems.
Welcome back into RKW on this great Tuesday morning. Hopefully we're helping you get to work or wherever your destination is a little bit early and a little bit easy.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. We all like to be early to our jobs. So if you want to get in on the conversation, we're about to have a good one. NFL coaches with the most pressure in 2025, 615-737-1045. I'm curious as to get some of your takes.
Yeah.
But there's several that we've kind of made a list with. And I want to start with the one right here in Tennessee.
Yes, ma'am.
Brian Callahan. Now, I know that a lot of the talk with coaches these days, and your former teammate, Gerard Mayo, did not get really a fair chance,
Short
right?
leash. Very short leash.
Very short leash,
Yeah.
one and done.
Oh.
One and dones don't happen a ton, but I do feel like they're becoming more, we're seeing this more often, I should say, with coaches getting a short leash because it's all about you got to win now. And Brian Callahan, I think you have to put him in this position because when it comes to last year, 3 wins, 14 losses.
Dang.
You look at the progression with offense, I just don't think we saw enough, including the quarterback position. And I think that's the biggest thing that you look at that's tied to Brian Callahan. And I'm not saying that this can't change next year, but I'm saying if it doesn't change and there is not significant improvement, I think there's a good chance that Brian Callahan could be possibly gone next year because we do know that in this organization, there's not a lot of time given in terms of getting things right. And that's just, it is what it is. That's just what's been proven in the last few years. That's not just me saying that.
Absolutely, Kayla. I mean, one thing that Rand said yesterday, like this business is judged upon wins and losses, period. Ain't no other way around.
Isn't that what Rand said yesterday on the
so
show?
it's like it's wins and losses, period. Like, do you win ball games? Yes. How many did you lose though? Like that's what you're asking. You mentioned a second ago. I don't think I've even said it out loud, but Kayla, you said they won 3 and lost 14.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's significant, right? And the first question I have to ask myself is, we're talking about coaches that can potentially be on the hot seat next year. Is what actually puts them on that? What suffices to actually allow them to be safe? Like, because we're speaking about this team being 3 and 14 this year. The 6 wins do it, right? Like, that's where I'm asking the question. Like, it's a baseline 6 games to show, okay, this was enough progress. I went through the future teams that they got to play, future opponents for next year. This upcoming, it's already 25.
I know.
For the future opponents in 25. And I just looked at just like the baseline of where they are right now and where the Titans are. It doesn't look too promising. But here's what I also say. Each season tells its own story according to what changes you make and how you adapt. And you have it in your notes right here, Kayla, on our rundown. You're in a position right here and says no progress with the offense or the quarterback. Brian Callahan is going to be judged on both of those things definitely going into next year. And wins and losses also play a part in it too. The biggest thing that I think he also has going against him this year too is, what are you going to do about a quarterback again? Is it like Levis? I know Rand somewhat gave a tip of the cap to what Will Levis' journey has been so far. So do you run it back with Will Levis now that it's Brian Callahan's and Chad Brinker's ship that they're running? Do you do that, right? Or do you go get a free agent? Or do you draft a quarterback? And what is their progress going to look like in that time? Because what I've always noticed in this business is this. More times than not, when you change GMs, make front office changes and stuff like that, eventually that guy gets his own guy. Because I don't know if I can trust you enough to do what I want you to do, or do you have the same philosophies as I do as a general manager to keep you employed here, especially if you only win 6 games next year. So, yes, I do think even before the season starts, in my own personal opinion, like Brian Callahan is up against the wall on how next year is going to go for him. And that's a lot of pressure. And to your point, Kayla, I just don't know how much time can be given if the product looks like it does this year the way it did in 2024. That's what sucks about the industry.
It does. And it is, the quarterback is the biggest key, right? Because he was brought here to be an offensive guy, to really change the identity of the Titans, which has always been a hard-nosed, run first type of team for the most part in the past several years. And now they looked to change that, and it just didn't go according to plan in that first year. Most of that because of the quarterback. Obviously, there's other things that go into play. The offensive line, still a work in progress. But that's what is kind of interesting for Callahan's situation, too, is whatever you do in terms of the quarterback here, whatever decision you make, if it doesn't go your way, I think it is just what it is. And and I just don't think there's a lot to back like him coming back in terms of what the franchise decides to do.
Exactly. So he's in a tough spot. Now, here's what I also recognize in these situations, too. Like, coaches sometimes do better under pressure. Mm-hmm. I think Brian Callahan and Rand somewhat alluded to that yesterday, too. Like, forget the nice guy stuff that you think about him. Like, the guy's actually a savage. We got to see it on the field and how he coaches his team up and manages the games and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But what we're learning is this, though, too. If you ain't got the player, sometimes it's probably not going to work out for you, because we saw a guy last night on Monday Night Football in a playoff game, and Kevin O'Connell, he's one of those guys in the league, right? Can call it, got the heartbeat of his team. It's like they fall in line for him. And you know what happened? His quarterback doesn't make the plays for him. Is it Kevin O'Connell's fault? Maybe, but I'm blaming more Sam Darnold than I am him. So it really does matter what Coach Brian Callahan does here with the quarterback, with the offense sequence on how they call plays coming out of, And
I think he's going to get better at that.
I hope so.
I think he really, I really do think he can be a good coach. Now, I don't know if it happens here or somewhere else because of the time, limitation, but I do feel like he has it in him. I think he'll go back and reevaluate a lot of the stuff that he does in terms of play calling this year. But is it the amount of time that's going to be given? Is that going to be given to him to be able to do that? Are you going to be able to have enough time to do what you want with the quarterback? Those are the two things that aren't on his side.
No doubt about it. I see somebody in our YouTube chat said, speaking of the Titans schedule, is easy next year. What's easy? Because I'm looking at, all right, Houston, Indy, Jacksonville.
Okay.
All right. You can split them probably with two of those teams. Houston looks actually that good. Kansas City, Chargers, LA Rams, Seattle, Patriots, and I forget who's the other NFC team that they got to play. You're up against the gauntlet again next year. You know what I'm saying? On top of Arizona with a quarterback established, Denver with their quarterback already, Vegas, San Francisco's a tough team. So the season has to play itself out. But I do think starting off 25, Coach Callahan is in a tough spot to really secure his job with the results that happen over the course of the season.
So we got Brian Callahan up next. Definitely we got to go down to South Beach. Mike McDaniel is in the mix. So he's been the head coach for the Dolphins since 2022. He's 28-23 in the regular season. I think he started off his tenure there very hot, but obviously that has cooled down. He is 0-2 in the postseason. By the way, in their loss to Houston back in December, that was Mike McDaniel's 13th loss against teams above 500, dropping the third-year head coach's record to 3-13 in those such games.
So he only beats bad teams. Is that what we're saying there?
That's what the stats say.
For a while, that was the AFC East until, Buffalo came in and, kicked down the front door and everything. So he only beats bad teams. That's not a good place for a guy that's supposed to be this offensive-minded guru.
Right?
And that's his issue, too. So he has his quarterback, whether he believes in Tua or not. He's got wide receiver weapons. He's got running backs. He's got an offense built. He had one of the best free agent signings in all of football with Tyreek Hill, and he's begging to leave right now.
I was going to say, Tyreek Hill is not happy there.
So, yes, 100% Mike McDaniel is on the hot seat, and I don't know how he comes up out of this one, especially if they have another losing season. What we do know is this: depending on what the Bills do with Josh Allen, they're probably not going to win the AFC East. I'm projecting that one. So if I'm wrong come 2026 doing this job, all right, cool. I'll probably eat the world's hottest hot sauce or something like that. But I can't see Miami with where they are right now winning the AFC East. So he's got that knock. You also got the incorporation of Mike Vrabel going to the Patriots. And I do think there will be some type of change involved in how they go about that job, too. What I also know is this, too. There is talent with that Jets team. You remove Aaron Rodgers, we'll see what it's going to look like and how they move forward with that one, too. But Mike McDaniels, for the guru that he is, and I think we all need to temper ourselves moving forward, too, on giving these guys these titles.
They're not all Sean McVay.
No.
They're not.
And that's what I was going to say. Yeah. They're not. And you got to have the right circumstances, too.
Yeah.
And here's the other side behind Sean McVay, too. I guess he's done it with two franchise quarterbacks with Goff and also now Stafford. But what is he when Stafford's removed? You know what I'm saying? It's that side of it, too, to where I want to be able to see him adjust. I ain't praying that he's not a good coach or anything like that. But what I'm saying is Sean McVay has a quarterback. We saw that man do work last night. He's had 2 good quarterbacks. I'm watching Mike McDaniel have his franchise quarterback and not be able to get much out of it. He hadn't been able to protect him. He hadn't been able to protect him from himself, and he hadn't been able to scheme up guys for Waddle or Tyreek Hill other than that 1 year they had a few years back. So, do I think he's good? Yeah, probably as a play caller, not necessarily as a head coach sometimes. Some dudes are good with just being lieutenants, the way I view this.
And yeah, that's the thing. If he does get fired next year, I don't see him necessarily getting a head coaching job right away. I think he would have to do the Arthur Smith route and go be an offensive coordinator, which sometimes that's the route you want to do. That's the route maybe you are the best at. And sometimes you just have to let the ego.
I'm telling you, not everybody's
overtake you.
Built for the management of men.
Spot.
No. It's all right sometimes being a lieutenant. And I promise you, you keep a nice job being a good lieutenant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The paycheck's okay. I'll just say that.
From what I've heard, it is.
From one mic to another, Moan, a mic that you know very well. And I'm very curious to get your thoughts on this one in particular, because I heard one of our friends, Ryan Clark, obviously a guy you know very well, speak on this a couple days ago.
Yeah.
It might have even been yesterday. And he was somewhat, giving some true words on the Mike Tomlin situation in Pittsburgh right now. 18 years as a head coach at Pittsburgh. I mean, that's incredible, first and foremost. 18 years as the head coach. In what day and age does that last a coach, in this day and age in head coaching in the NFL? 183, 107-2 in the regular season with the Steelers, 8-11 in the postseason.
I ain't gonna lie. Watching that game, I actually texted y'all afterwards on Sunday. I was messing with Bert.
Yeah.
I was messing with Bert. I was like, y'all got our coach fired. I'm speaking about Coach Tomlin in Pittsburgh. My thoughts on this is this. I thought if there was ever a year for the Pittsburgh Steelers to make a change, it was this one. I did.
So this past cycle.
This 2024 season.
Yes, okay.
5 straight losses, 4 in the regular season, and losing to Baltimore the way they did, and absolutely got blitzed by Baltimore, okay? Like, the Baltimore Ravens, in my mind, are probably going to win the Super Bowl. I'm throwing it out there. I don't know if we're doing predictions or anything like that, but Derrick Henry ran all over him. Lamar Jackson had his way, and the team just looked disjointed as I've ever seen it be at times.
And defensively, that just never really happens.
It never happens. Figuring out what you're going to do offensively.
Sure.
And here's, I guess, again, the way I've said it is this, and like when 2 people are together and it's probably toxic, but they love the hell out of one another.
There's many of those.
It's hard to make them people break up.
Yeah.
It just is, and I think that's what the Rooney's got going on in the front office with deciding on what to do with Coach Tomlin. Like, not deciding what to do. Here's what I do think. I think there are teams that would probably let their coaches go if Mike Tomlin hits the market. Am I wrong in saying that?
No doubt about it.
My
I
adversary,
believe that.
Bert, can I tap in real quick?
What can I do for you?
I believe that.
If the Steelers fire Mike Tomlin, do you think teams will actually let their coaches go or at least tap into him to hire him?
If you were waiting on somebody, if you were like, man, I think we got to give him one more year, man. We really got to go get Mike. Mike Tomlin would be easily, you know how people do this, like, oh, that quarterback would have been the best quarterback in this draft. Mike Tomlin would be easily far and away the best coach in this coaching cycle.
That's the way I somewhat feel about like why they didn't let him go. Like, if you know that's a good man, you stick by your man. That's the way I'm saying it. But I do think some changes have to be made. Philosophies, like, I don't think he's out of touch with the locker room, but there needs to be a reassertion of like what his mentality is over the course of the season. I can make tons of excuses for him. I'm saying the O-line is young, you don't know what you're getting out of Russ, but you can't lose 5 straight. You can't not be competitive against Philly, against Baltimore, against Cincinnati, and keep your job is the way I looked at that one. And to not have a playoff win since 2017 for a guy as legendary ahead
That's
he is.
the tough one, right?
That's the toughie because there's only one rule in Pittsburgh, and I've played there. When Mr. Rooney walks in at the beginning of the season, he don't say much ever over the course of the season. Man, he says, congrats on making the roster. Our goal is to win the Super Bowl. You ain't even sniffed it as of late. And they also in the division right now with 2 potential MVPs in Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. Something has to change.
And sometimes, honestly, Ramon, I look at it too as sometimes a fresh start for people can be the best situation. Like if he just gets a fresh start and goes to another franchise, like I don't see a scenario where he doesn't win and doesn't win like I could see him if he goes to the right spot, gets a fresh start, he could go take another team to a Super Bowl.
I thought it was that. Like, okay, maybe he needs a fresh start somewhere else, and maybe the Steelers do too. But here's the other thing, though, too. As far as we're speaking about the hot seat of Coach Mike Tomlin, like, what if their guy just ain't out there right now?
And they might not be because they don't grow on trees. They head coaches.
Good coaches don't. So it usually don't happen in the NFL like this. Like, I've seen college coaches, stick by their men and stuff like that. But it's in the world of the NFL, the Steelers are going in the opposite direction, holding on to a guy that probably would have got fired by so many other teams at this point.
Absolutely. We'll continue that as we wrap up hour 2. We got a few more coaches that are on the hot seat. One that is connected to Callahan. One that has a really good quarterback, but might not have a job after next year. We'll get to that and much more when we wrap up hour 2 here on RKW. Hey, it's Kayla Anderson. I talk about all the time, love living in Nashville. There's so much to do, but sometimes that can just flat out be overwhelming, especially when it comes to finding a real estate agent that you can trust. And a local real estate agent at that. That is why you definitely need to check out my friend Bernie Gallerani. Bernie Gallerani has years of experience. He's got a proven track record. And I can guarantee you this, he's not going to let you down. In fact, he guarantees to sell your home in 30 days or less, or he's simply going to buy it from you. He's got tons of stories to share with some of his clients. And if you are overwhelmed with the process of moving, it's normal, right? Kayla was in the same boat, moving all the way from California. She connected with Bernie Gallerani Real Estate and couldn't have been happier with the overall experience. Even when her plans were shifting, like many people's do, the team just patient, attentive, and supportive in every step of the way. And now she is just days away from closing her dream home. So, Bernie's the only real estate agent in Nashville recommended by Barbara Corcoran of Shark Tank. If you watch that show, you'll love it. And he's the only agent I would trust to sell my home. Give him a call on his cell phone. It's 615-428-2644. That's 615-428-644. Or simply go to BernieGallerani.com. Welcome into RKW, wrapping up hour 2. I swear, this happened last time. Yesterday, the sun came out, I honestly believe, around 7:47. It was dark and dreary, then the sun came out. I don't know what that means, if there's any meaning to it.
What's that?
The sun coming out.
Sun coming
at the
out.
same time as yesterday.
It's a new day.
Dark
Same
and
time
dreary.
every day, technically.
I'm just saying it doesn't technically get really bright in this studio because we keep it so dark.
I was
I
enjoying
only see
last
that
segment.
sliver come out.
It was hitting Ramon right in the face.
Pause.
Oh,
Yes,
of course
but
it was.
was.
That's why I
ain't
brought him
pausing
out.
one bit.
Yeah.
I ain't pausing.
I had to bring out Mike Tomlin because in all honesty though, when you start hearing former players speak out about it like Ryan Clark did, it is where it is.
Yeah.
in the situation.
Absolutely.
So we've been talking about coaches that have the most pressure in 2025. So far, we've talked about Brian Callahan, Mike Tomlin, Mike McDaniel. I want to bring up a former colleague of Brian Callahan's, Zach Taylor. And this was actually Bert's suggestion. I completely
Was it Bert? I thought it was mine.
Wasn't me.
It was me.
It was not. Sorry, we had a lot of text chains going yesterday.
Yeah, we did.
I was putting together the
I
show.
ain't want credit for it. I was just saying.
I didn't
that's
see
all
that was
good.
you, Mo.
Had a lot going on.
But that is a good one. Zach Taylor, 6 years with the Bengals so far, 46-52-1 in the regular season. What's weird about this is usually you see a really good regular season records with some of these coaches that are on the hot seats, but their postseason records aren't great. In this case, we don't necessarily see the best regular season record, but his postseason 5-1 as a head coach. I credit this to a lot of the times the Bengals getting off to slow starts, as did they this year. And usually they're able to dig themselves out of a hole and then they get hot in the postseason. But this year they played around too much with their food.
Yeah, they did.
And this is what it got them, not going to the postseason. Also, to add to this, speaking of former players who come out and start speaking on their situation in terms of their franchise, tackle Andrew Whitworth spoke out recently. He said, once you start making these changes, as we've known they've done in terms of their staff as of late, they got to work because now it starts to fall back on you, Whitworth said. How they start the year and the way it goes going to fall on Zach Taylor. It will really tell the story, of what is going to be possible of this Joe Burrow-led Bengals organization.
Yo, he's 100% right. When you start making changes, I saw an article, it was about in November, where he was trying to have fun with the team again. He brought the ping pong tables and the pool tables and stuff like that back into the locker room. And I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, that's team morale stuff, but these are men who are professional, who want to be coached up and coached up in a way that they win and feel like they're competitive on game day. One of the most damning things I think that was said about this season this year was Joe Burrow had, I think it was right before the Steelers game, had a sit-down interview, I think, with Cam Newton, and he said, look, I started the season off good. I was like, damn, Joe, you said I did good. Like, I'm hot, and we're losing. And that was so telling on just, like, the structure of the way their season has gone, the expectation that he has, and also the effort that he was putting out. And I think Zach Taylor can still be a good coach. That 5-1 record, though, is very fascinating because is it mostly the Super Bowl that, you know what I'm saying, that they were in that 1 year? And here's the thing about it. Joe Burrow has gotten better. Joe Burrow could have potentially have been
an MVP candidate
easily this year, Kayla. And he's not in that discussion because they're, what are they, 9-7 this year or 9-8 this year? That's problematic. Like, it's inexcusable almost with a coach to have a franchise guy like Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and not give a strong push to the Super Bowl year in and year out. Like I've always said, franchise quarterbacks win half the games themselves, and Joe Burrow's doing that. The team got to do the rest, right? The team got to get the other half. Half of the other half is what they got to do. And that's what they're falling short on right now. Whether that be, and he let go of his defensive coordinator this year, so changes have been made. Whether it's been that, like, you got to ask the question, why didn't this change happen sooner? Like, don't waste away a guy's career. And here's the other thing, too. Joe Burrow's still really young in the world of NFL quarterbacks right now. I do think Zach Taylor has a way of calling plays and At this point, got two of the best wide receivers
I was just going to say, they have those pieces as well.
in the world, Kayla. They got a young running back that can do well, and they got to piece together the offensive line as best they possibly can. I look at that situation, and I do say, like, Zach Taylor, we're side-eyeing you. Like, I actually put him on this list because you can't waste away a Joe Burrow. You find yourself in a position to where, like, the talking heads, us, the big networks, of course, will be in a position to where we'll put you on the hot seat. And the expectation is so high for a guy like him when you got a quarterback like Joe Burrow.
That's the
and
thing,
again,
yeah.
I
You
know
got
he's
the
up
QB.
against Lamar. He's got to play Cleveland's defense, Pittsburgh's defense.
But he's done it before.
Exactly.
You know, and
So-
it's like he's had the quarterback. He's done it before. So to regress, and you really still. And I get your defense had injuries this year,
Big issues.
But like you said, you've got the biggest piece that makes it all usually happen.
Yeah.
Or for the most part, can get you to.
Yeah,
The playoffs.
No doubt about it. And again, like you said, it ain't the fault of what division you're in, but y'all tank to get Joe Burrow. Make the most out of a 9-8 for a guy of his ilk. Like that's tough sledding right there. So he's safer than probably anybody else on this list, but Zach Taylor's starting to get the side eye a little bit on how he's managing this team, in my opinion.
Yeah. We got to get to a break, but two other ones on our list. And of course, you can call in with yours. We'll get to your calls coming up here in hour 3. But Brian Daboll was on the list for me, as well as you had mentioned Todd Bowles. And I think those are both good people at this point. One, in terms of Todd Bowles spending 5 years, he's got a under 500 record in the regular season with Tampa Bay, 1-3 in the postseason. And then Daboll, I'm really surprised that he didn't get the axe this last year. He's been there since 2022. What have we seen?
Other than cutting or trading your quarterback,
Right.
cutting your quarterback, he was cut. And they just doubled down on him.
Yeah, they did.
I was confused slightly by Pittsburgh's doubling down because you had an out, didn't take it, and I was surprised by the Giants. Those
Me
were the
too.
two most surprising to me this coaching cycle. And who's to say? We were speaking on a break right there. Bert brought up a crazy scenario of Mike Tomlin being traded to Minnesota and Kevin O'Connell
Do
being
a
traded to
flip-flop?
Pittsburgh, doing a flip-flop. So
I actually like it.
you just never know. The business of
Yeah.
football is never ending.
Hour 2 wrapping up here on Arcade Dub. After the break, we'll get to the former Titans head coach that was officially named in New England yesterday. Plus, we'll take your calls and much more. That's coming up next on Arcade Dub here on 104.5 The Zone.
What's going on? 8 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Final game of the wild card round wrapped up last night as the Rams took down the Vikings 27-9. Rams pushed the score early, outscoring the Vikings in the first half 24-3. Rams will now take on the Eagles, while the Vikings have a quarterback decision to make between Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, and J.J. McCarthy. With that being said, the official divisional round schedule was announced yesterday. On Saturday, 4:30, first game of the weekend, we got the Texans at the Chiefs, and the night game will be Commanders at Lions. 8 o'clock kickoff for that. And for the Sunday games, 2 o'clock kickoff for the Rams at Eagles, and a 5:30 kickoff for Ravens at Bills. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour 3 moving right along here on RKW on this Tuesday morning alongside our VFL, our 11-year NFL veteran. We've got Ramon Foster. We've got Robert Walsh behind the glass, making it all happen. I'm Kayla Anderson, and already reaching hour 3. Lots to talk about this morning. Fun little segment there. We got some good input on the F&M Bank chat about coaches that are under the most pressure in 2025.
Yay.
We'll get to the official hiring of Mike Vrabel and an interesting thing that he said to a local reporter about having a team that fan base needs to be patient. And I feel like that kind of relates to maybe the situation we're in here a little bit right now.
Hold up. That's what Gerard said.
It is what he said.
That's what Gerard
So
That's what Mayo said.
when I saw this snippet, I was like, this is interesting. Before we get to that, though, I promised we'd get out to the phone lines. We've got Matthew in Franklin. He wants to talk a little bit about the college football playoff. What's up, man?
Good morning, my friends. Hope you're having a blessed day.
You
Same
too.
to you. Good morning.
I am a hardcore day one Notre Dame fan, and I've had to hear from the Big Orange friends how we're not worth a dang, we're terrible. But here's how UT and Notre Dame have a commonality.
Tell us.
We're going out and playing for a natty, and y'all back home just drinking natties.
Hey.
Have a blessed day.
Yes, sir.
Doing a little trolling today. We're used to that.
Hey, that's
I love
awesome
it,
right there.
Matthew.
Matthew, how long it take y'all to get to that point, which is awesome too, though. It's Marcus Freeman's is
He's
a
doing a
damn
great job, yeah.
good coach. He
Why
is.
NFL teams are interested
His,
in this, too.
his system in place is good, but here's also the other thing, though, too. Just win.
Just win, baby.
We work with a microphone every single day, Matthew, and just win, baby. Just win, like Al Davis would say.
Exactly. So that's short and sweet, right?
Absolutely. I'm happy for you. I got a real good friend in Mike Golick Jr. I saw,
That's right. You've been
every
his
every
stuff.
win that they've had as of late, I've hit up Mike
Yeah.
Golick Jr. Like, bro, y'all got it. Like, and the team looks totally different too. One of the young men that I watched grow up in our locker room, Jordan Clark, Ryan Clark's son, is on that squad too. So
He transferred
I
from
remember
ASU,
watching.
yeah.
I remember watching Jordan in the locker room just being a kid. Now he's running around making plays, and not just on the field. Actually, as I just said, making plays for that Notre Dame defense. So this is sports. This is what it's all about. Do a little trash talking, Matthew. Appreciate
I just hope
y'all.
it's a good game.
Just win, Matthew.
Exactly. Just win. So Mike Vrabel officially announced yesterday as the New England Patriots head coach. Also, to add to that, senior NFL reporter Albert Breer had mentioned that Giants senior advisor Ryan Cowden, who we're all familiar with from his time here, has accepted a job with the Patriots per sources. We all kind of knew that Cowden was probably going to be Vrabel's guy.
Yeah.
He is going to have a big role in New England in the front office and, of course, be reunited with Mike Vrabel. So, Mike Vrabel, if you guys understand and remember all the press conferences here, you kind of just know who Vrabel is, and when he gets to the podium and, he'd have his moments and stuff. And, He's very used to that setting in New England. And I feel like he feels like he's completely at home at this point now as he's hired as the 16th head coach in franchise history there. But here's the thing that comes into light now. He is going to be taking over a roster that is just not very good. It's young in the building process, obviously. It's not like when he was here and Mike Mularkey kind of handed him over some veterans, some sort of an established locker room. That's not the case. So there's going to have to be patience with this franchise. It's not going to, like in the case here, happen overnight. Here is a little snippet from a local news reporter there. Let me get her name. By the name of Nicole Menner at the NBC affiliate. She asked about fans being patient during the rebuild, and this was Vrabel's response.
Oh, you needed that for me. I thought you were gonna read that. I didn't know you
That's
needed
my guy.
Sorry
That's
about
my guy
that.
right
you know
there,
what?
baby.
That's okay. It'll take a second, and I can buy some time to get
we
that.
can buy something real quick.
The Twitter link is there that I posted.
Keith in the chat said it as before we even get to this answer. Vrabel has a long leash.
In New England,
yeah, he's got
absolutely.
a long leash.
Because if you're going to go through all that and fire a former player and somebody you respected and then hire another one, then you better be ready to give him a long leash. Here's the answer on that.
When it comes to this rebuild, fans have been told to be patient here for a few years now. What would your message to those fans be in terms of your process in getting this franchise back on track?
Yeah, I understand the idea by being patient, but I want them to be proud of what we're doing and take ownership of this program, just like I talked about with the players, because I believe in the brand of football that we coach, that we teach, the physicality, the toughness, the effort, those things of being able to take advantage of bad football. And when you do that, right, and you have those behaviors, then you're going to get the results that you want. And so, the fans, they will recognize that, they will see that they'll be proud of what we do on and off the field.
To me, it's like I've got to build my culture first, right? And so let's just build something where at least the players respect it, and then the winning will come. But to me, I took that as, it's not going to happen right away.
It won't. He's already setting it up for it right now.
I said that, you know.
No doubt.
I didn't say we were going to win right away.
Yeah, but it's fascinating. Like I said, like the messaging that's already going out into what he's allowed to do. Again, I think Robert Kraft and his think tank man of executives knew Gerard was up against the wall as it pertains to the job that you're asking him to do for a first-time head coach. I hate to say that he's a pawn, but hell, screw it. He's a pawn. He was a pawn. We are all mostly pawns in the game that these people play at times. And I think Vrabel's in a situation where he'll be given a little bit more grace because Gerard won a Super Bowl too. What am I saying? Both of these guys have been legendary guys in the Patriots
Vrabel just
world.
had the head coaching experience going into it, right?
Vrabel has the look. I think I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious when I say that. A lot of people are equating, and I think Vrabel's a good guy. I think Vrabel's a good can be a good coach, but we ain't ever seen him build up something. We've seen him take something that was bubbling, right? And then it boiled over the top and you got you to a string of winning seasons.
Fair.
Right? Like seeing him be put in a spot right now to where he actually has to start with a shovel. Like, because I think that's where the Patriots are and start digging stuff.
Got to break ground kind of again.
They couldn't even get wide receivers to sign there in the offseason. You know what I'm saying? So who's your OC? Do you go get Arthur Smith from Pittsburgh, right? Because he's being frisky right now and going to meet people too. But what we've seen from Coach Vrabel, whether that was John Robinson's issue or the front office here, is it go up, level off, and then tank. Vrabel's look and just his player experience too, to me, has given him a lot of grace. He was an Iron Man in his league. He has the jawline. He's tall. He intimidates people, right? And I think that fan base up there, and heck, that fan base here in Tennessee, want a guy that represents what they feel they look like and want to be. And Vrabel's saying it right now. Give us time. We're probably going to suck early is essentially what he said. But you're going to be
football he used.
But you're going to be proud of what we look like out there. And that's a bunch of toughies. That's a bunch of guys that look like the plan is going to work. We've yet to see his plan actually be birthed, grow up, and be sustainable. That's the differences I think that we're going to watch this second time around with Coach Vrabel. I'm not saying he's not a good coach, but when you ever see him be put in this situation before, and one thing we've learned is this. I'm going to go back to last night's game in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell. and Sam Darnold. You can be a great coach. You can call all the great plays. Gerard said that earlier this year. Hey, I coached them over the course of the week. When they cross some white lines, ain't nothing I could do for them. We saw that be true last night. It sounds so ugly to say. There's a lot of things like I would tell you, Kayla, right now, I wouldn't say it as a player. I didn't want to see my backup do better than me. I wanted the team to win, but if my backup gave up a sack,
you laughed a little.
Still my spot. We won, but he's not me.
Yeah.
Gerard said that, and it was very polarizing to a lot of people. But for the folks that understand that game in all sports, I can be the best coach ever, right? But I can't tell that player what to do on the field. Sam Darnold had open slots last night. Like, if not Naylor, he had him across the middle. He threw it behind him for an incompletion.
There were opportunities.
Kevin O'Connell called a great game. And I think that's what Vrabel's got to understand, too. Like, and we spoke about that a little bit yesterday. We're like, sometimes the players that make plays for you ain't going to make them the way you want them to. So can he adjust to that? Can he make something out of that young quarterback? Can he get that defense back the way he wants to? Can he make New England an attractive place to be at? We don't know. Vrabel is a guy that a lot of fans see themselves being. And
especially in New England.
Especially in New England, especially here, too, because that's why it's such a love affair for him. That's the reason we were having a conversation about a lot of people saying that Coach Brian Callahan looks soft. Remember that?
Oh, I don't forget that one.
You remember that?
Yeah, he wasn't manly enough.
You want it to look a certain way, and Vrabel gives you that look. We're going to see what the job looks like, and I don't doubt, because as bad as they are, they got to have some success. But he also got Josh Allen, right, that he's got to go up against, and whatever the other two teams in the division say they want to do too. But he's up against a real trench monster now. This ain't the AFC South.
No, it's not.
Okay.
And now you've also, by the way, you have a quarterback for the most part who I think Drake May can be successful in this league in terms of starting.
Drake May? I think he got it.
Guess what you got to do if you're Mike Vrabel? That you had some issues at times doing. Sometimes you had success. Matt LaFleur, Arthur Smith. You've got to hire a staff on the offensive side as well that's really going to boost Drake May to the next level, because he sits and says in his introductory press conference that we have to be very efficient in terms of a passing football game. When you look statistically at wins in the National Football Game, our ability to affect the other team's quarterback and our ability to provide for an efficient quarterback and passing game is high in terms of contributing to success. Like, he's sitting there saying, this is what we got to do. Well, you got to go out there then and hire the staff that's going to do that. Right. And if things don't go right, guess what you also have to do? You got to fire some of your staffers. And that's something that got him in, I think, hot water here and didn't help him was the stubbornness. That's got to change if he's going to have success at the next level.
Yeah, it does. And here's, too, his management of people moving forward, too. Like, you remember when he got fired here and people were having the rumors go around? Like, I wonder, to your point on how folks deal with him in the front office, because I think Vrabel's like 6'4", 6'5".
Oh, he's a huge dude.
He probably still holding at like, maybe 230, 240 maybe.
For sure. Plain weight.
and like going into the English front offices and knowing that he's probably got a whole lot more flex. Like, you remember the rumors? It was like Vrabel walked in a room and scared people.
Yeah.
You remember that conversation?
Yeah.
Like, have you smoothed yourself over? Like the fact that you were scaring people when you walked into
the room. And I mean, he did. He intimidated a lot of people.
Who was scared by this man that has to do a professional job walking into a football room? But hey, again, Vrabel to a lot of folks signified toughness. I love to know that one right there. It's actually pretty hilarious.
Some good stuff there. I like, though, that I get what you're saying with the look, though. The way that he kind of portrays it, the type of football he wants to play and the organization and culture he wants to build. But now he's got to actually go out there and prove it. And look, that's a place that you hold near and dear to your heart.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just continue to lose there.
Absolutely.
You got to figure out how to win. So
it's on him.
Yep, it absolutely is. RK here as we continue on in the 8 o'clock hour. Let's switch gears a little bit. We've got our good friend Austin Price. Missed him last week. He is back this week. We'll catch up on a little bit of Tennessee headlines, plus men's hoops, women hoops. We'll take it wherever we want to take it here in this next segment. Austin Price coming up here on RK on 104.5 The Zone. When you hear the glass break, that means we bring in our friend Austin Price of VolQuest. We missed you last weekend. We hope you're good and well, Austin, but good to have you back.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
You're
Hey,
welcome.
Oz, how's it going, man? So you knew I was out, so you decided. No, I was in that day. You missed my birthday, man. Come on, Austin. You get that.
All I know is I've not heard from Will Bowling's voice in 3 years. I think he's been on like a month-long vacation.
Hey, let him have it when you talk to him. Please let him have it, Austin.
He'll be back next week, so that's your opportunity, Austin.
I like it.
Austin, a lot of news happened since last week. The biggie in terms of the broadcast booth, Mike Keith introduced as the next voice of the Vols, and Danny White just continuing to make moves when it comes to making Tennessee bigger and better.
Yeah, I think that Danny's had Mike, kind of circled as the guy he wanted to, whenever Bob was going to retire, try to go after for, several years now since he got here. I think that, Mike came over, did some stuff around signing day a few years ago, and Mike just presents so well. He's so polished, and, I think he's exactly what Danny White was looking for in a replacement for Bob. And, when Bob decided to retire, it was one phone call. I'm not saying it was just one phone call and they said yes, because you have to court a guy, but there was one phone call to make. It was 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then probably 5, 2. So kudos to everybody for getting that one across the finish line. I think it was. It might only been with the Titans for 4 or 5 years at a time. I think it might be different, but he's called Titans games for over a quarter of a century, and always had that dream to call Tennessee football. And, as he told Brent Hubbs when we sat down with him, early last week before they announced it, watched that 22 Alabama game and just started to see the faces on the students and all the different things. And all the stuff just kind of started to stir in him again about his love for Tennessee football. And, there you go.
Austin Price with us is one of VolQuest on 3. Austin, I just wanted to jump in because Mike brought up that point, and you guys have sit down with him, and he said it. I've had conversation with him too about that particular game, Austin. We're speaking about the college football playoffs and making it to the championship and stuff like that. We had a Notre Dame guy call in and troll a little bit too, which is warranted at times, right? But there are points in teams pathway journeys. And everyone to a T that seems to be a Vols fan, man, not knowing what Josh Heupel was, how much did he win over the fan base? And even further now with that 2022 win over Alabama, if you could reflect on that.
Ramon. School had admissions paperwork filled out, for just a crazy amount of applicants that wanted to go to school after that game. I think it did awaken so much of the fan base that went dormant when you cried at Philip Fulmer's firing press conference, reawoken. Yeah. It was kind of like they went into the Austin Powers when the crowd, cryo-froze him, and then all of a sudden they thawed him. It thawed the fan base in a lot of ways. And I know I'm joking about your stuff, but
I thought it, but I was in the moment. I felt like I was right, and I still am, because look what we went through to get back to this point. Though, Austin, is the point that you're making, right?
Correct. You're right. There's a point that when things go south, that there's a reason they go south, and then there's a point when things wake up. And this was definitely the point where things woke up. Tennessee just hadn't had anything like that. They had that cool 16 season where, Jawan burnt Tabor and then caught the Hail Mary, but then it quickly fizzled when you lost to South Carolina and Vanderbilt when you had the inside track to go to Atlanta. And so while Tennessee didn't go to Atlanta in 22, that season had so many special moments of getting to number 1 and going to the Orange Bowl and winning a meaningful bowl for the first time in 20 years. That it was something that kind of woke the fan base up, and it all started on that night in Neyland when Tennessee won 52-49. So I think you got a lot of your younger fans re-energized with that game, and you carried it on. You beat Florida again at home, you beat Alabama again at home. Now the trick is to figure out a way to win at the Swamp which you haven't done
Yes.
which you haven't done in 22 years, and win in Tuscaloosa, and you hadn't won down there since 2003 either. So it's two places you've not won in 22 years. So figure out how to win down there or beat Georgia at home.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you got to do in 2025.
No doubt about it, man. And again, looking at this journey that they had this year, Coach Heupel and his staff, well, he's got to make some decisions on his staff, man. One of those is Coach Eckler, Mike Eckler. He isn't on the roll with Coach as last reported by you guys in the war room, man. So what's going to be his positioning moving forward as far as retaining him moving forward?
Well, I think that'll be up to Coach Heupel, and we'll see what he elects to do. Obviously, Mike Eckler is now. Him not being on the road now doesn't mean that he's for sure not going to be back. They can now pick and choose who they put out on the road. It does not have to be an on-the-field assistant, because they changed that rule to where you can have all the coaches on the field. So, like Coach Chop is an on-the-field coach now. He's no longer an analyst that I'm using the air quotes here, stands over there on the side and charts things, and so now he can go out on the road and you can just pull somebody off. I'm sure at times there might be Glenn Ellerby off the road or Alec Ablin off the road or whoever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do understand if you're a traditional on the field coach and all of a sudden you're not on the road, you're on an expiring deal. There's a certain look to that, and I think that's why you've seen Will Compton push so hard for him to get the Nebraska job, and again, we'll see what happens. It won't surprise me if Coach Eckler moves on to something else. It won't surprise me at all if Coach Heupel gives him an extension on a deal. So, I think that's kind of, where this thing's at. I don't think anything's set in stone one way or the other, but I don't think you have to be on the road to be back.
No doubt about it. Austin Price with us this morning. Austin, I'm starting to see a little bit of a trend, man, that comes across my algorithm. Some of the VFLs or current players that I don't follow, they're popping up on my algorithm on Twitter, okay? One of those guys is Ethan Davis, and another one is Ricky Gibson III, man. They're putting out the, year two and, blessed to be back and grateful and stuff. So I'm guessing, like, deals are done as NIL sets itself up a certain way, right? But in that, another guy that had Hills set up perfectly as of late was Mike Matthews. One thing I've seen circulate has been the potential for him. Is it true that he could be a two-way player in like this scheme that Coach Heupel is running? Because all I've heard is, like, if you thought he was good at wide receiver, I heard he was a hell of a safety or cornerback in high school.
Yeah, I do think he was a really good defensive player in high school. I do not see him playing defense here.
Okay.
Austin Price. Sorry, Austin.
I don't think it's a Boo situation where Boo's wanting to play both sides. I think Mike's wanting to play offense only.
Just play ball for him. Gotcha. Okay.
Austin Price joined us this morning on RKW. Speaking of that secondary, though, Austin, it's interesting to note coming into last year, there were still some uncertainties on what it would really be, right? Now coming into this next season, it looks to have maybe the strongest in terms of room and experience in terms of that backfield. How, I guess, good is that to know that they've kind of set their minds out to fix some of these spots, and it's obviously working out for them?
Yeah, I think, you just have to have a plan and stick to it, Kayla. And I think that's what they want to do. I mean, I think they feel really confident in that area. And they got to make some adjustments, obviously. But for the most part, I think you want to have confidence in what you're doing, confidence in your guys, and then two, just kind of be able to adjust on the fly, have new ideas, and do what you do at a high level.
Austin, we've got some people in the FNM Beck chat here that watch us in the streaming platform on YouTube, and a question that was asked was about James Pierce Jr. He hasn't technically declared, right? Do you know what exactly is going on with him?
No, people keep asking about him.
Really?
James will be going to the NFL draft. I mean, every kid announces on their own time frame.
Sure.
So, but I do not see James back, in 2025.
Is it interesting though, like these time frames of these kids nowadays of declaring? Because I guess people just assume once the season is over, or some even before the season is over, declare. Is there any rhyme or reason to maybe why a player waits?
I don't know. I've always thought it's odd when a kid has exhausted his eligibility and he puts out the graphic and declares for the NFL draft. It's like, oh, bro, of course you're declaring for the NFL draft. I mean, I think that's always funny to me. Like, I get the sentiment of like, hey, it was a great run. I love my 4 years. Thank the fans. Thank the coaches. And just, I just think you just say something like, I can't wait till the NFL draft in April or whatever, right? I mean, it's just that part of it's very strange to me when they declare for the draft and they're out of eligibility. Right. But hey, all these kids do it. It's not like it's just one or two. They're all doing it.
Yeah, no doubt. I remember when I was leaving for the draft, I was just like, I have to do this? Like, yeah. I'm done at the University of Tennessee. I'm with you. It's quite weird, but everything has to be an announcement these days, though. With that being said, though, there's been a couple of commitments here as of late for the Vols, man. One in the transfer portal, Amari Jefferson, if I'm not mistaken, a Chattanooga product, and also Gabriel Osenda, offensive lineman, man. What can you tell us about those two guys, and specifically, man, Amari Jefferson, who was at Alabama previously?
Yeah, Amari, did not play his freshman year at Alabama, Ramon. And so, there's a bit of an unknown there. I mean, you don't know what he is, how good he is. I mean, you know what he was in high school. There's a reason you recruited him so heavily, just over a year ago when he chose to go play for Nick Saban, over coming to Tennessee, and then Saban retired, and I don't think he ever had a real connection to the new staff. And he ended up having hip surgery in early November. He should be cleared coming up here in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and will be good for spring practice unless there's some type of setback, which no one, hopes is the case. And, again, I think there's an unknown there, but I think, it's basically, low risk, high reward for Amari coming home, and so you got him for 4 years. I mean, he'll be a redshirt freshman this fall. So you have some longevity there with him, and I think that's a good thing. And then Gabriel Osenda, kid from Canada. I mean, the first time I met him, there was a shadow. He's big like you are. And you walk up, you create a shadow. You're like, well, who's this dude? And he's just a mountain of a kid, and you can't teach size. And so, I think he can improve his feet. I think he can improve his quickness. And he's still a pretty good little athlete for the size he is. So, I think for Tennessee, this is an easy take. And Gabe Osenda, Amari Jefferson, Joakim Dodson in this past class, all from the Baylor school. So Tennessee is building a nice little pipeline out of Chattanooga, where Eric Westmoreland, former Vol linebacker, coaches.
That is where Emo's at, man. Speaking of pipelines, Coach Rick Barnes has had a good one the last couple of years with Dalton Connect, and now we're seeing with Chaz Lanier too. I know not every coach has the same, respect and just speak freely the way they want to, but Austin, I have to ask you, with what he said about Chaz Lanier this past weekend, and hey, that's what he's been paid for, with his lack of shooting the ball when he wants him to. Do you think we'll see more of that and just understand that, hey, in an NIL era, like, we almost got to speak to these guys like they're pros? And Coach Barnes did it, and I don't think it was demeaning. I just think, hey, you're asked to do a job now, and it is that, because you get a W-2 at the end of the year.
I mean, I agree. I think all that more. So I think it more in how we moderate a message board on how, people can talk about players. I don't think you take personal shots, but if you want to say, man, is he worth the money we're paying him? I don't think that's a bad thing anymore. And that's more for me over the last few months. Like, I would tell you back, early in the football season, I struggled with that. Yeah. Because it's just like, we've always been trained to not let them, bash kids. And I don't think that's bashing kids, because there's a difference between taking a personal shot and just saying, man, we put a lot of money, Tennessee put a lot of money into that guy and he's not producing. And so, I don't know if more coaches will do it. Maybe a few. I think very few of them have the cachet that Rick Barnes has to just say whatever, whenever. Rick Barnes is kind of like my grandma, or when my father-in-law, who's now 81. It's funny how more just kind of direct he is at his older age than he was 10 years ago.
Yep.
And so, you get to a point where you just don't care, right? And I think Coach Barnes is kind of there, with, it has been there for the last several years. He just says what's on his mind. And, I think there's something to be, there's a uniqueness and a truth to a lot of the stuff he says. And so, it caught a lot of people's attention just because, like a few years ago, that would have been blasphemy. And I'm sure some people in Indianapolis cringed, but these are the same people in Indianapolis that, let this thing get off the rails because they didn't think it won't be that bad.
Mm-hmm. Austin, they've got Georgia coming up here on Wednesday. And we've talked to you all the time about just the grueling SEC schedule, and you always got to try to stay healthy. What's the status right now of the health with this team as they just started pretty much SEC
they've got a few nicks and bruises.
Yeah.
Obviously, Kate Phillips has got a shoulder. You got the finger deal for, Jemai Meshack. They're kind of working through some nicks and bruises, but, and the big thing with Meshack is, you got to, when you're out there, you don't want to be like somebody that they just back off of, and then really you're playing 4-on-5.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
you got to figure some stuff out offensively to be able to help this team. This is going to be a tough game. Georgia's sneaky good. They're now ranked for the first time in 14 years. 14 years.
That's wild.
That's a long time.
They had
Think
Anthony
about it.
Edwards on that team.
Yeah.
Ramon, you were in your second year with the Steelers.
That's what I'm saying. No, straight
You had
up.
no gray hair.
I had no gray hairs, man.
I actually had hair. All these things took place. Caleb was in college.
That's what I'm saying.
Thanks, Austin. Thanks, Austin.
Yeah.
Edward Bowling was in middle school.
Yeah.
I think it was just in third grade. No, I'm kidding. 14 years ago. But you're right, though. That's saying a lot.
wild.
The SEC is grueling right now,
Yep.
man. Speaking of that, on the other side of it, baseball is soon, right around the corner, too, man. Reigning national champions, man. Tony V, how do you see this season going with these guys? They got a lot of top 75 players on this team. Austin, do you see an opportunity for a repeat for Tony Vitello and the Vols baseball team?
So much has to go on,
It
to
does.
get to Omaha, and then the draw in Omaha. And so I don't know is the best question.
Yeah.
I do think they've got a ton of talent.
Yes.
I think they'll hit the ball like they've always hit the ball because that's what Tony's known for. What does the pitching look like? How quickly do they get some of these guys back? Early in the year they're coming off injuries, and I think the best question is, they very well could. I think, I think getting to Omaha would be a tremendous accomplishment after last year, and just to get yourself in, and then then to me you're playing with house money. Like just get yourself to Omaha, and then you're playing with house money. So, be interested to see kind of how this team meshes. How quickly do they mesh? There's a lot of new faces on this team, and in years past, Coach Vitale has been able to get pretty good production from the new guys pretty quick. So we'll see how they produce. And Hunter Ensley's the unquestioned leader on this team, and it'll be up to him to kind of lead this group and show them the ropes of playing in Knoxville and playing in the SEC for some of them.
Absolutely.
He is Austin Price of VolQuest. Appreciate you coming on, Austin. Great catching up with you, and as always, great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
All right, we're going to wrap up hour 3 here, and some interesting words from Miami head coach Mario Cristobal. He speaks on Carson Beck as Carson Beck is on his way there. And what about Cam Ward? Speaking a little bit too late in terms of what happened with him in that bowl game and pulling himself out in the first half. We'll get to that coming up next here on RKW 104.5 The Zone. Welcome into RKW, wrapping up hour 3 here on the show, cruising into the 9 o'clock hour, and we've got some names here in terms of quarterbacks that could be interesting in terms of heading to the Titans, possibly. Y'all know my thoughts if you listen to the show. I'm a Cam Ward fan.
No, yeah.
I'm not going to
doubt.
apologize for it. I've been talking about him since he was in his first year at Washington State.
No doubt.
I'm a believer,
It's
right?
not a, hey, you like what you like. Well,
like
hell,
what you like, right?
you've been more right on these bad quarterbacks
I have been right on quarterbacks,
than
yeah.
almost anybody as
Right?
of late, Kayla. When you
Right?
call them bad, they're bad. You've been calling Cam Ward good, so I'm like,
Yeah.
I've crossed
We'll see,
the line.
right?
I'm like, Kayla might be a QB evaluator out
I
here.
might be. Maybe hire me on that on the side, right?
No doubt.
So Mario Cristobal, head coach of Miami, Moan, he did come out recently. He was speaking about, first and foremost, Carson Beck, right? Because Carson Beck has announced that he is transferring to Miami. There's a lot of cash that comes along with that. He is also dealing with the right elbow that is being surgically repaired. He said that he should probably be back for the season, not probably in time for the spring. So that's the update on him.
Mm-hmm.
As for Cam Ward, and I find this weird in terms of the timetable. If you're Mario Cristobal, and you know there was all the types of false narratives that were going around him when he came out after the first half of the Pop-Tarts Bowl, right?
Oh.
That they ended up losing, by the way. Miami did. He said, Cristobal, on defending Ward on this past Monday, as we got closer and closer to the game, it became increasingly evident that Cam was more than likely going to be the first player selected in the draft. That is when decisions were made that were best for everybody, and they played out that way. He goes on to call, obviously, Cam exceptional, saying, obviously, he is able to do it at the highest level. But why does it take this long for his head coach, who is supposed to have his back, to come out and kind of like put out the fire a little? Because Cam was getting a lot of hate on the internet and social media that was like, oh, Cam Ward pulled himself out of the game. Why would you want that type of quarterback at the NFL level? Might I add one more thing, Moan, before I throw it over to you? I talked to his cousin, Quandre Diggs,
Quandre's
in the
his
locker
cousin,
room on locker room cleanout day. And he obviously had surgery and he was out there. Great dude, by the way. He said, yeah, that is not how it went down. He did not pull himself out of the game.
Right. I think it was a plan for sure. Why did it take so long, Kayla? Because it's probably irrelevant to them. Like, a lot of people want, like, here we go. I said, a lot of people want your dirty laundry, right? A lot of people want your dirty laundry and want to know the ins and outs of everything that you got going on. And sometimes it's just not worth it. And I think that's where they are. So eventually, when you feel like you tell people exactly what it was, and that's what Mario Cristobal is as it pertains to Cam Ward. Why do I got to tell you everything public about my business that we've hashed out in-house? Coach Cristobal don't have a problem with it. Cam Ward chased the record, and he did it, right? And nothing's going to be hurt moving forward. We've seen guys have tragedies going into the draft, right?
Oh, yeah.
Respectfully, Jalen Carter situation. Jalen Carter still was a top 10 pick. We're talking about a guy playing a football game to chase the record.
Sweat.
T'Vondre Sweat.
I mean, that wasn't a tragedy, but that was a situation.
Situation, right? And he still went high in the draft. Like, all these talking heads that want all intimate details, ask the right questions. Assume the right situations in. Don't think you're more important than what the actual job is because nobody told you what happened. Right?
You're not always in the room. Let's just say that. Sometimes you're not in the room in these situations. You don't know the conversations that happen to set up certain things.
Yeah. So I didn't have a problem with Cam Ward doing it. He chased the record. He got the record.
Sure.
It took him long because Mario Cristobal don't answer to nobody as it pertains to what he has to do moving forward. So I liked it. He stayed healthy. He's going to end up being a top 10 pick somewhere in the draft. And that was their plan for him. As far as what's his name go? As far as Carson Beck goes, yeah, we'll see what that looks like for him. They're saying he got another like $4 or $5 million from that.
He's got a lot to prove. That's all I got to say. Your name can only take you so far.
Yeah,
and
no doubt.
He's not coming off the best resume at least last year in Georgia. So if Miami's leaning on him to be the savior like Cam Ward was. Right now, I'm not convinced. Sorry.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Cam Ward's a good talent. The more I hear him talk, also, the better I think he's suited to lead an organization.
Things do not phase him.
Yeah, nah.
That's also what Quandre Diggs told me. He goes, he was born that way. Yeah. Like, he's just born with a different circuit in the head when it comes to leading and the way he does things. I was like, damn.
Yeah, and there's also this, too. He was a JUCO kid. I remember watching Dalton Connect, and everybody was wondering if he was going to be able to fit in the SEC. And Savage, our teammate here, said he's a JUCO kid.
Yeah.
Incarnate Word ain't JUCO, but it's a very small, you got to work your way up from the bottom type of school and program. And he's done that every single level. He's seen success. Is he perfect? No. I think we're learning right now you can be a winning quarterback in the NFL and not actually get you to the promised land. And a lot of time, most fans just want a product on the field.
Sure. That
they are proud of, and that at least is knocking at the door of playoffs and potentially going deep into the into the playoffs, close to a Super Bowl. So we'll see how it works out.
Absolutely. Interesting stuff there. Interested in just seeing how it all works out here for the Titans as they have the number 1 overall pick. Could Cam Ward be in the mix? We will see. All right, wrapping up the show in terms of the hour. Not the show yet, guys. We got one more hour left. Hour 4, we'll put those 4s up when we return here on RKW 104.5 The Zone.
What's going on? Just a hair before 9 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I am Robert Walsh. Final game of the wild card round wrapped up last night with the Rams taking down the Vikings 27-9. Rams pushed the score early, outscoring the Vikings in the first half 24-3. Rams will now take on the Eagles while the Vikings have a quarterback decision to make between Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, and rookie J.J. McCarthy. So we officially have our divisional round schedule on Saturday, 3:30. We're going to get Texans at Chiefs. Then at night, we're going to get 7 o'clock kickoff between the Commanders and the Lions. On Sunday, 2 o'clock kickoff, Rams at Eagles. And then 5:30, we got the Ravens at the Bills. A little bit of breaking news this morning. Texas wide receiver Isaiah Bond leaving school early to enter the NFL draft. Projects as one of the faster players coming in the upcoming draft and ranks as the number 6 overall wide receiver on Mel Kiper's NFL draft rankings. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Put those fours up. We have reached hour 4 of Ramon, Kayla, and Will here on this Tuesday morning. The sun is shining. We're going to take you through this last hour, leading you up to the Buck Rising Show with Lucas Panzica. And I've got my friends with me here, almost the whole crew. We'll have the whole crew back together tomorrow.
Yeah.
Ramon Foster. By the way, snazzy jersey, if you're only listening and you can't see us, is that the old school Vols hockey?
No, it's the current Vols hockey
That's a
club
current Vols
jersey.
hockey.
Yeah,
Because it looks old school.
What's crazy is I had this on recently. I was in the I call it the candy shop. It's the my local neighborhood liquor store. Okay,
Candy shop.
yeah, because I go and just look at stuff for the most part every time. But I had it on, and this guy walks up to me smiling, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? He's like, man, nice jersey. I was like, okay, thank you. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate it. And he kept on. Was like, hey, my son played on that team. He's actually up front. So I actually met one of the VFLs that was on this UT hockey team here in Hendersonville, man. So shout out to him and his father who came up on me, man. And it was really cool. Really cool.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I like
meet one
that
of those
jersey.
guys. Absolutely.
That's sweet. We got Robert Walsh behind the glass. You know what he does. He does it all well. Spinning the hits, making the show happen. I'm Kayla Anderson. So we're going to have Stephen Godfrey on in about 20 minutes or so and catch up in terms of college football. But I just saw Mike in Cleveland just popped up on the line. If you want, let's go to Mike in Cleveland. Mike, I am so sorry if you were listening yesterday. There was a lot going on in terms of the show, and I completely screwed up. So don't mind me. It was not intentional, but I was doing a lot of things at once.
Hey man, hold on. It's all good.
Yeah, because Bam took your over yesterday.
Yeah, Bam did do the horn.
No, he didn't. He didn't take my horn. He was just showing love to his bruh. That's my dog right there. You know what I'm saying? He had A1 since day one, just like me. I used to be cuzzo. So let me get into it real quick. Let me get into it. So first off, thank y'all. Thank y'all for giving the Rand interview. Thank y'all for y'all's time and dedication. Thank y'all for, giving this Titans fan base something that Amy ain't gave us, that the Snake Brinker ain't gave us, and that's something. You dig what I'm saying? That's acknowledging us in some kind of way, this fan base, with that interview that y'all did for Rand. The other thing I really want to say is, what type of sense does it make for this man to come on the flagship station and discredit the team that we supposedly love, or the city that we supposed to love? So, thank y'all for handling it professionally, with integrity. And, man, forget all y'all haters, dog. That what y'all was expecting is way too much social media hype and way too much bull crap. What they was on was some realness and giving us something that, ain't nobody else giving us. Appreciate y'all, man. Forget all y'all suckers, man. Real
Appreciate you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate you,
Appreciate your
Mike.
call.
Fascinating, too, because I wasn't going to do it, but I said, screw it, I'm going to do it anyway. I am going to address the elephant in the room, in a sense, as it pertains to yesterday. And I ain't going to be overly disrespectful, but I did hear see a bunch of disrespectful stuff, too, as it pertains to that interview that we had with Rand Carthon yesterday, former Titans GM. And here's the thing. Most of us live in this world and operate with it. We owe somebody, or we're, a soldier in their world. I've never met somebody get fired from a job and immediately, if they're owed money, and I expect Rand at some point is owed something in a sense, bash their former employer that has to pay them out at some point, right? I ain't ever heard a coach do it. I ain't ever heard a GM do it. Diana Racina tweeted out yesterday that was a situation where a GM has never gone on the job gone on the show immediately after being fired. So that's how big the situation was yesterday. We told you it was going to be a special guest, right? We didn't say that Rand was going to come on here and bash the Titans. I think the expectation of him coming on with how he was let go, there was an expectation that he would. He didn't. I don't know if he could or if he couldn't. He chose not to. That's where I'm at with this situation right here as it pertains to the job. And if that was you in that situation, and you're probably owed hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. I don't know the numbers. But when you get fired from these NFL jobs as a head coach or executive, it's usually a big number. Who in their right mind, just to get their rocks off, would go down that route of a bash fest? I ask you that, and you answer it to yourself. The job that we did yesterday. All right, cool. I talked to Rand. I've had a relationship with him for a while. I'll say this, too. For the people that are actually journalists in the city, how you let the football guy come in and actually get more flex and in than you ever have, and you've been here for either close to a decade, or you call yourself a journalist and you can't get to guys like him, or you can't get to Chad, or you can't get to the front office, or hell, none of you have even gotten Miss Amy in a sit-down other than Michael Keith.
Teresa Walker did.
Yeah, Teresa. Okay, two people,
Yeah.
Michael Keith and Teresa Walker, right? So as it pertains to you doing your job and how we do ours, this is where I think the bad boys club that we have in the city among some of the media members, like that just want to yell and say, ask the hard questions and do your job. And, hey, you didn't ask anything. You were never able to get any of these people, right? You were never in a position to where your connections over these years have allowed you to be in a backdoor conversation with these folks that may give you more information if you just shut up and do the job right. I have a motto of mine. You catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. A lot of y'all like to act tough as it pertains to doing this job and yelling into a mic on solo shows and stuff like that, but you don't actually do it the way it should be done. I've worked in this industry as far as football for a very long time, and when you ask a player a hard question, they'll give you a softball answer too, right? There's ways on how you do this job and build relationships. Rand said something yesterday that was just like, we go off of relationships in this league. And I think a lot of people want to be important to themselves and to the people that like a lot of negativity. And because of that, right? Because of that, you get nothing. You absolutely get nothing. I didn't hear much of it, but this is what I would tell certain people. If you got to call me and say, hey, I'm going to be critical, or you text me and say, I do a podcast and I'm going to be critical, then you're probably wrong, right? And it was this station. It was other stations, too. It's people I've crossed paths with here and there. If you got to warn me of something, then it probably ain't right. Now, I'm okay. Absolutely. I think Rand said initially, I'm going to come in and he said, I'm going to thank this fan base and the appreciation.
That was his number one thing, right?
And the appreciation of the Tennessee Titans for allowing me to be in this position, right? It wasn't, hey, screw Miss Amy, screw Chad. It wasn't any of those types of things right there. Not even close to it. So when it boils down to what you guys do and how you do your job, I've always said this. I'm okay with critics. I've had it my entire life. I've had message boards and people tweet at me, I hope you break a leg. I hope you die. I can handle those types of things, but I go do my job, right? Mm-hmm. As it pertains to me being in football or me doing this media stuff too. I just looked at yesterday and said, why haven't you had one of these types of people in? And I see you guys, and I've said this before, Kayla, to you and others that go into that room. I've seen these guys want to ask hard questions, and then they get in front of these Burke Nihills or Chad Brinkers or Rands, or they can't even get close to Miss Amy and their legacy folks here, and they don't. Yeah, if it's a bad game and a player sucks, hey, why did you continue to – it's soft. Yeah, you're supposed to ask the coach that question, right? If you're that good at your job, right, then why do you have to be in a position to where you either decide to knock somebody else's work or you don't get the same flex that you think you have to get that access like that? That's my biggest point with what happened yesterday and how the job was done. Never in the moment of anybody being let go and owed something has that person ever gone on a microphone, gone behind an interview, and trash talking. Mike Vrabel is one of the toughest guys. We mentioned that today, did we not?
Absolutely.
Vrabel got let go.
Yes.
Has he bashed Miss Amy?
No.
Has he? Has John Robinson, who probably still collecting checks?
No.
No. So why in the hell would you think that we'd have Rand in office, freshly fired, and bash the Tennessee Titans? You know what happened yesterday? I saw a guy that yells into a microphone at another station make bullet points of what we did yesterday. So you listened. I saw people say they wasted an hour. You listened. You know what happened with this station and the platform that we have? It raised the damn floor, too. We gained followers. You gained streams. You got access. Speaking of relationships, I had a national ESPN guy that wants to come on our show in a weekly segment now, right? So that's what we're speaking about on how you do your job. I'm okay with criticisms. Absolutely. I ain't got no problem with it. But if you got to reach out to me about, hey, I'm going to say this, and there was numerous people that did it yesterday, then it probably ain't right. You feel me? So when I ask you guys this question, how you let the football guy come in and get more access than you? You should be really checking yourself on this one. I'm a former player, right? I'm not a journalist. I've always said that I'm a small J journalist. I'm a sports entertainer is what I do. So, yeah, I asked Rand about Drake. I asked him where he's going. Y'all got an opportunity yesterday to see a human who was freshly fired, probably embarrassed, in a sense. Didn't get an opportunity he thought he was going to get to help build this team back up. But what I do know is this. He left you to Tavondre. He got you JC. He was a part of getting you Tajay, right? There's pieces in place. If you let a guy do his job, that you can say to yourself, well, yeah, there was something there. He got you two corners that, if healthy, can really help you out. Yeah, Levis situation, cool, right? Not finding the right tackle. But who's actually done their job perfectly in this league? I'll wait. That yesterday was a little bit of you wish it was you type of moment. I've seen you guys go into that media room at the Titans facility, and when y'all say you're going to ask hard questions, guess what you do? You throw softballs, because you know at the end of the day, this business that we do is all about relationships, and some of you still ain't got them.
Well said. Stephen Godfrey, when we return here on RKW 104.5 The Zone. RK Dub here on this Tuesday morning. Happy to have our good friend, Stephen Godfrey, joining us here for the final half hour or so. Talk a little college football. How are you? And what did you think about this past weekend in terms of the semifinals?
Look, if you're a Tennessee fan, you got to feel good, right?
Justified, Godfrey.
It's not you, it's me.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't think we talked about this a lot, but I don't think any Tennessee fan thought making the playoff was going to be a disappointing year in any stretch. But now you're like, oh, they're murdering everybody. We're fine. It wasn't us. It's just absolutely a better team in Ohio State, and that's the truth. So I think, to bring it local for a second, if you're a Vols fan, you should feel every time Ohio State just absolutely embarrasses some other program, you should feel better about it.
No doubt about it. It was exactly that, man. So, Godfrey, let's just start with there, man. I'm guessing Ohio State's probably the favorite going into this game against Notre Dame. What's different for them from the regular season, from what you've seen in this postseason, man? A lot of people contributed to Chip Kelly deciding to finally step up to the plate.
I've heard every conspiracy theory in the world, and I do think that, you can't separate what happened against Michigan from how effective this team is. I've written about this a couple of times now. You take any one of these, I think it's 14 or 15 touchdown drives that they've had in the last 3 games. You take one of those, you put them in the second half against Michigan, and the entire complexion of the playoff changes completely. I also think we don't argue about reseeding anymore. We don't argue about the way the teams were placed, because then the obvious best team in the country probably would have come in. You assume they would have beat Penn State in the Big Ten championship, come in as the 1 or the 2 in that Oregon slot, and then everything sort of would have made more sense, and I think the teams would have been distributed a little bit better. It's Ohio State's behavior before and after Michigan is going to end up kind of defining the entire postseason.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about it, man. But watching that Ohio State team, though, this past weekend, and you see, of course, Jeremiah, like the young wide receiver, get triple team, and they still find Carnell Tate. They still find Emeka Ibuka. They're still able to run the ball on the ground. Who's matching that? And I even hate to even bring this up because, hey, I'm in the SEC, but is Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State showing a shift of powers, or this is just the 2024-25 season's they're just better right now?
Look, I know everybody wants to say it's definitely that or it's definitely not. We don't have enough data. It's going to be 2 years, right? Everybody's freaking out because the last time it happened, it was USC, the 04, 05 era. So you know what happened after that?
Yeah.
The SEC was fine. They basically dominated for a decade plus. However, things are changing. I think roster management is changing. The idea of, just take Alabama, for instance, the idea of stockpiling talent that essentially who can't really go anywhere or do anything if they lose a competition in a spot. And I'm not just talking quarterbacks, but, across the board. Portal didn't exist. I think it's only been a few years. I feel like I have to add all these little caveats on what I'm about to say so your your phone lines don't explode. But I do think the Big Ten's done a better job managing high-end talent in the portal. I think it was a bad year for SEC quarterbacks. I've been kicking around this offensive line theory that you guys have heard for a while, which I just think I think the way we're swapping that position in and out because of NIL in the portal, not that that's wrong, get your money, but I think that because of that, there's a lot of uncertainty in the SEC that wasn't there a few years before.
Yeah.
Stephen Godfrey joining us this morning on RKW. You can follow him at 38 Godfrey on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. When it comes to James Franklin, a lot of people here familiar with him when he spent his time here at Vanderbilt. What is it with James Franklin that we have this, opinion that he just, because he can't get the actual, job done in terms of national championship, but he gets so close. And this year, taking another step, do we still look at him as a coach, though, that just won't be able to get over the hill?
Oh man, I am tempted to make 6 or 7 different jokes. It's funny too, because I like that you set that up. You're people here might be familiar with James Franklin. You lived here long enough. You remember when James Franklin was calling into this station,
yeah,
complaining about coverage. That, it's funny is I think that James Franklin is not with us anymore. I think this is a different James Franklin. I just think he's evolved. I think it was weird. There's kind of some, I guess you call it friction after the fact with what was going on with him and Marcus apparently. And I found that very interesting. I think he's become a little bit more combative, but it's hard to argue with the talent he's assembled. That game was not a management issue.
Right.
There have been plenty of James Franklin in a big game scenarios that have just completely imploded and it's been a problem. That was just, I kind of think the best team came out, and there was I don't blame Aller's decision making. Going across his body back over to the middle of the field, that wasn't Franklin. You could say maybe where they have an otherworldly tight end, and they're sort of a tight end university. Should they have been better or more effective downfield with receiver? Yeah, but everything that got them there. Yeah. I'm not trying to be cute like a greeting card here, but they worked their system effectively all season to get to that point. I think more than anything, they just kind of ran out of time. And I also think for as injured as they are, Notre Dame has played some amazing defense. And sometimes it's just the simplest explanation. I can tell right now by the players that are coming back and what they're doing in the portal, they're not falling off any kind of cliff anytime soon.
Right.
But if you also don't feel comfortable with him in a big game scenario, well, he's earned that against top 15 opponents.
Take Ohio State out of this conversation. If you were to say this program gained the most from this first playoff, who would that team be?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Thanks. I've been told I don't ask good questions.
What?
Yeah, I've been told I'm not a journalist. Sorry. Go on, Godfrey. Go on.
All right. Let's do a little HR here. What's going on?
It wasn't me that said it, Godfrey. It wasn't me.
I jumped on it. Wasn't me?
Yeah, I had to quickly.
See, this is what. Hey, just public media figure to public media figure. Don't read the comments.
Right. I wanted to be petty for one time. Everybody gets to be petty. I wanted my chance.
No, look, I built a brand on petty. It's fine.
Exactly.
Okay. Definitely not SMU. So we're gonna reverse engineer this real fast. It's funny. It might. I know they got smoked. I mean, history's going to tell you it's Indiana. They have the FBS record for losses historically in the history of college football. So the fact that we're there at all is pretty monumental, right? Tennessee is probably the answer, provided that they can bridge out of the talent they're losing and then stay at that level of relevance, right? So if you just simplified it for a second and said that, during their struggles, Tennessee kind of hit them in dozel on the SEC, right? They were a have in the 90s and the aughts, and then they were a have-not for a while because of self-inflicted, decisions or whatever you want to call them. Right. And then now they're back on that top end. I think sort of attending the playoff, which is about all they really did, kind of certified the status of what they're doing over there. So I'm tempted to just kind of go with the homer answer here at Tennessee, because I think, I think Penn State winning a game, regardless of what it was certainly a huge for them because of the Franklin stuff you talked about before. But, Oregon, Boise Tech, all of those teams were either meeting or slightly exceeding their existing reputation. There's nothing there that says that they're fundamentally different.
Yeah, Stephen Godfrey with us this morning talking college sports. Godfrey, as it pertains also to Notre Dame real quick too, man, Marcus Freeman's name has been brought up. I see somebody said, it might not be serious, but the NFL is going to come calling if he wins this national championship. Is he a categorized Nick Saban college coach, or do you see a pathway for a guy like him to get poached by the NFL? Like, can what he's doing at Notre Dame be replicated in the NFL? Because I do think they're two separate types. You know what I'm saying? I think Matt Rule has taught us that. Like, Nick Saban learned that fast. Like, is he a college coach, or can he go to the other league?
Look, I'm not going to rule out his ability to be effective in the pros, but, the data tells us over pretty much any 10-year span in modern football that you're not going to have great odds going from successful college program to successful NFL program. Jim Harbaugh is an outlier in so many different ways, but there's so many other people: Urban Meyer, Steve Spurrier, Nick Saban, you just mentioned, Matt Rule. Although I think maybe Matt Rule might have been kind of the victim of a bad franchise situation, and we're starting to see that anyone, talent or coach, can be derailed by just a fundamental bad franchise situation.
Yeah.
Just going to go ahead and throw this in, even though I'm a college football guy. Like, we might be living in a city with a bad franchise situation. Just stellar track record going on over there.
There's facts here incorporated into that.
You guys are just, they're killing it. Literally. I think here's.
I'm here for it this morning.
Here's the best answer. Like, Freeman's been mentioned with the Bears. I'm staying in South Bend. Like that's a franchise that's killed more talented, more promising individuals on both the coaching and playing side of the ball. I'm staying in South Bend.
Okay.
If you were in a situation like, if there's a more stable situation, more promising situation at the pro level, let's have that conversation.
Right.
But I don't think he's completed an arc yet as a college head coach. He's so young. He's just started there. You know, this is the same season that they lose to Northern Illinois, which I know everybody brings up, but it's also the same season in which they have achieved just a phenomenal amount of success relative to the short amount of time they had to adjust and the opponents they played and the talent he's recruited. I feel like he's sort of maybe entering the second act of a story at Notre Dame. When these jobs come open, you can't control. Based on the history of the Bears as a college football media person, I would say probably makes more sense with like Brady Quinn running that NIL right now and everything that's going on in South Bend. You can position yourself for success 4 or 5 more years pretty consistently.
Stephen Godfrey joined us this morning on RKW. So from one coach to another I think you hear a little bit about Steve Sarkisian, possibly there's NFL interest in him. Do you feel like what he's doing at Texas, that they're going to be able to achieve that goal of a national championship? Do you think he's going to have the patience as well to not be maybe enticed by some of these NFL inquiries?
I'll tell you what he's doing at Texas. He's bringing in 5-star talent and screwing around in the end zone. That's what my guy's doing.
Right?
Wow.
There are stats I don't have off the top of my head that would support. It's one of the lowest red zone efficiencies for basically any head coach with an offensive background, especially relative to the amount of talent that Texas has. Ohio State is playing otherworldly. Caleb Downs is phenomenal. I think I would take him as the best player available, full stop, right now. As long as I wasn't in an NFL franchise in desperate need of a quarterback.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
But all that being said, checking out of that jumbo set and sorry, radio language, screwing around. You had 2 PI calls. You had 2 inches away.
Yeah.
By the way, I've seen him in the NFL. I'm a Falcons fan. He did this in the playoffs against Philadelphia. He went out in a personnel group that put three all-pro receivers on one side of the field and a fullback lined up at wide receiver. Guess what happened? The Eagles won the game. He screws around. Okay, I'm venting now. He needs to stay at Texas. My guy is very much like Freeman. Look, if Sark wants to go back to the NFL, I don't. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, right? Because as stressful and as aggressive as the college schedule is for coaches versus the NFL, Texas is going to afford you every luxury possible to succeed. And I do think, based on his career trajectory as a college head coach, he does need a title to sort of to kind of verify for him to be taken seriously in NFL circles. This is also, look, y'all, this is just the week that this stuff happened.
Yeah.
Because we fired all our NFL coaches. We just got done with the first round of the NFL playoffs. So this is it. Look, silly season happens in college. I've been covering it for 15 years, but like the NFL's not. I mean, it's just as dumb. We're gonna have a week, and I'm not saying that hiring Sark is dumb, I definitely don't think hiring Freeman is dumb. What I'm saying is, it's going to be rampant speculation for a while before the NFL just settles into its usual names.
So you mentioned the NFL and its usual names, right? Godfrey, Stephen Godfrey's with us this morning from Split Zone Duos. I get my words together, right? One thing I know is this: college football towns, Athens, Knoxville, Tuscaloosa, Gainesville, like regionally, they love their teams because most of the times those guys stay in those regions for the most part. And what we've seen as of late being reported by most, networks that follow college football has been the tampering and guys leaving and being offered more money to go into school. Godfrey, how messy is the transfer portal with star players being asked or begged to go to another university. Because Williams-Newari, right, the big-time recruit out of Missouri, left Missouri, got paid in high school, and then went to Nebraska right before the year ended. So that didn't just happen because he had a feeling, Nebraska was a cool place, right?
No one's ever said that. I have nothing against Nebraska. But no one from Nebraska is going to tell you, like, yeah, come here. It's cool. No, it's dirty as hell right now. It's messy. You got folks. So, Ramon, you could probably explain this better, but there's a certification process to becoming an agent who can represent an NFL player. And it's not nothing, right?
Right.
They got to weed out the idiots and the hangers-on and the parasitic types. And right now, it is bad.
Yeah.
And I don't blame the kids, and I don't even blame these idiot reps who are peddling and turning it into a year-round auction. Nobody in charge wants to go ahead and do what has to be done, which is certifying these athletes as earning individuals, employees, whatever you want to call them. We keep screwing around with our definitions, and we're now at a legal kind of block. We can't subject these players to any kind of regulation or window, because then you're running up against labor law, and it's going to get shot down again in the courts. So, look, the NCAA and the major leagues, basically the Big Ten and the SEC, they are going to inch along very, very slowly because they don't want to get to that point where, like, well, we don't want to call them employees. Dude, Carson Beck is making $4 million.
That's what it is.
To be mid. It's $4 million reported. I don't believe that. I should be very clear about that. I think it's probably going to end up being lower. That's the other thing, too, is, I'm telling you, someone in the media, a lot of this information is junk.
Yeah.
The books aren't transparent. You can get on a website right now and find out to the dollar what every NFL athlete is making under the cap.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's above board, right?
Yeah.
Dude, this is like post-Soviet Russia, man. I'm just telling you. It's like, y'all, it is, and it's going to be this way for a while. And we're like, when are they going to come to their senses? Dude, the NCAA fought it. They lost 9-0 in the Supreme Court. I know this is a sports show, but go ahead and look up how many times there's a unanimous ruling at the Supreme Court level. That's how bad the NCAA has bungled this.
Yeah.
They've got to figure out a way to create some sort of employment status for these kids. If people are frustrated and they say, hey, this is getting out of hand, this is the only way to fix it. This is it. Otherwise, you better be prepared, because Ohio State's winning a national title because they spent $20 million. Okay?
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the game. It's never going to change. And the difference is, in 2008 or 2010 or 2013, when the SEC said I was lying when I wrote the story about Bagman, the difference was you could build a national championship team for a fraction of that, because it was a black market, right? You could just hand a kid some cash, a couple $1,000, and he'd be happy. But now in the free market, no. They're going to go to the highest bidder.
Absolutely. Stephen Godfrey with some good stuff this morning on RKW. When you look at some of the coaching changes that have been made here in, the offseason or at the end of the year, what team gives you the most hope here coming into next year that they can make a giant leap with maybe the staff that they have kind of revamped?
I wouldn't rule out Florida.
Yeah?
I think there's been a really mindful kind of shift where it's not just firing a coach and hiring a coach. We really need to look at how we're managing the personnel, which just means, like, how are you handling NIL? If we have $15 million, how are we spending it? Florida is very interesting to me in the SEC. I don't want to say I don't want to say South Carolina turned a corner, because it's so volatile in that league and so competitive. But I feel like they put down. There's a plan there. You feel like there's potential there. These rosters are so fragile. It's a little bit hard to answer. The one that kind of stuck out to me was Illinois. Yeah. Like, they're figuring out within their space, within their ranking, sort of where they are, how to win games effectively. It kind of reminds me of, like, Bielema's Wisconsin run and Les's Arkansas run. That was a really, really good team and a really, really hard out down the stretch. And then, the one I think is going to jump back considerably will probably be Michigan. because they are not fooling around. Like they turned over so much going from Harbaugh in the national title year and all those kids that went pro, but they will be back in a nationally relevant way.
Wow. That's saying a lot right there. I mean, you see the writings on the wall. Well, let's go to little brother then at this point. Magic Johnson has come out and said, I want a lot, right? And he's got a big B in front of his bank account. What's with Michigan State moving forward in the football department specifically?
I really like Jonathan Smith. I think that there was some hesitancy for Smith coming from his background at Oregon State, and he kind of comes off the Chris Peterson Washington tree, both in terms of sort of scheme and personnel philosophy. There was a lot of concern last cycle about they really liked Mel Tucker, and then Mel Tucker, things I can't talk about on the radio, Mel Tucker basically shot himself in the foot by doing one of the dumbest things I've ever heard of to avoid a lot of money. Like, my guy had a lot of money. But Mel Tucker was supposed to be the new idea at Michigan State, which is we're not going to do the whole go into Detroit in the Midwest and find 2 stars and make them 3 stars, or 3 stars and make them 4 stars. Like, that's how Mark D'Antonio kind of gutted out those Big Ten title teams, right? Or those contenders. They want to be in the flash business the same way Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State. I think Smith is a great coach. I think the difference now, going back to what I said earlier, is it's not just a dynamic recruiter anymore. If you have a general manager who's worth their salt now at the collegiate level, you can take someone who's more of a schematic mindset kind of guy in Smith, and you could find a lot of success. I think the days of new coach wins the press conference, he's going to land all these 5 stars. Well, that doesn't equal the same thing it used to.
Right.
In fact, I would challenge all these people who come on y'all's show and they're like, well, they had the number 1 rated class in 2017. I was like, cool, how many, or 2021, I'm like, how many are left? Or 2022 or 2023 for that matter. We're turning over 30% of the roster a year. So how are you gauging successful coaching and recruiting now? Yeah. So I think it's a combination of, we're going to start talking about front offices a lot more.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's becoming professional, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, they got to get a structure in place, especially with revenue sharing, right? Like I saw Colorado, we got to let you go here too, but I saw Colorado, if reportedly right, nix their collective group because revenue sharing is going to pay out.
Yep.
Yeah, here's the secret that I'm going to leave everybody with. It's all going to change again because we don't know what the house settlement details are. None of us do. And so everybody's kind of lying and saying, like, we got this under control. We have a 5-year vision. No, you don't. Nobody does. I'm going to be honest with you. It's going to be wilder before it becomes more consistent. We are living through the strangest period in college football's modern history.
Dang. Well said.
Absolutely.
Stephen Godfrey, you always bring it every single time to join the show. We appreciate you. Go check him out at X, Twitter, at 38Godfrey. We'll talk with you next week, my friend.
Appreciate it, Godfrey.
Absolutely. Hey, excellent questions. Excellent questions.
Thanks, Godfrey.
Love it, Godfrey.
We'll wrap up the show when we return here on Arcade Dub 104.5 The Zone. Wrapping up the show here on RKW. Thanks to our guests today, Austin Price, Stephen Godfrey. Talked a little college football. Obviously, we've got the Titans who are bringing in some of their candidates for round 2 of interviews. Some of those names that we've got right now coming in for the second interview, Colts assistant GM Ed Dodds, Bills director of player personnel Terrence Gray. They'll be in town today. That is per Albert Breer. Also per Albert Breer, owner Amy Adams Strunk is going to be involved in the second round here. She was not involved in the first round. And then we've got some of the other names too. We mentioned Mike Borgonzi. You talked about how he's somebody who's very interesting in terms of his experience. John Eric Sullivan, just the connection with Chad Brinker and the time that he spent in the Packers organization. John Spytek of the Bucks, and Ian Cunningham of the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
It's moving fast, though. I'll tell you that much.
Moving quicker than I think. I do think the guy for the job is going to be the guy from Green Bay. It just makes the most sense out of it more than anything. John Eric Sullivan.
In terms of having all the things with scouting and experience, but also having the relationship with Chad Brinker. Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing is like, this thing has got to work. They've got to be on the same page. And the power struggle could not continue to happen. Yeah,
it can. And I think, of course, delegation of what you just said, powers, matters a lot because, I mean, Godfrey, who's an outsider, said he had his piece and speak on the Titans here in a second, too. And just the optics got to start aligning. And if you hire somebody with a little bit more flex than you, then it's probably it's probably going to break up again anyway. So that's some what I see the situation is, and it make the most sense too when you look at the title that he's in Green Bay already, John Eric Sullivan. So I was wrong yesterday. I'll be wrong again, Kayla, because I show wanted Reggie McKenzie and Dimitroff. So
that was actually Diana Rossini, when these first came out in terms of candidates, she actually said she was thinking that would be someone that was highly, going to be one of their highest people of consideration. And he did not make it past the first cut. Again, Reggie McKenzie of the Dolphins, former Vol, Matt Berry, and Kat Hickman, along with Thomas Dimitroff, did not make it into the next round of interviews.
Yeah, tough situation right there. But of course, you got to shake all trees as it pertains to trying to find the right person for the job. Also, this too is we end the show. Like I don't want to make it like I got bad blood with these people that do this job, but we all separately do our jobs a certain type of way.
We certainly do.
And that's just why I stood on that one. I felt yesterday was a little Bush League. Again, being in a situation where you got an opportunity to take an interview and you do that interview. And of course, to me, I was of the mindset as the floor was raised as it pertains to getting information and just how you go about it. Was it your cup of tea? Probably wasn't. But hey, you know what? Guy came in, and again, as far as his Titans fan base, with as much transactions that you've had and changing of the guard here, given an opportunity to thank this fan base and say somewhat of his piece, and if you honestly listen to what he said, it gave you some answers.
Yeah, I'd encourage some people to actually go back and really listen to the answers that were given. He gave you what he wanted to give you. It's not our job to give you the answers, and I know some of you weren't impressed with the questions asked. You also weren't here, and you don't know everything that happens behind the scenes. So take it for what it's worth. If you liked it, you liked it. If you didn't, that's okay.
Hey, we're here to do a job, baby. With that being said, Will be back tomorrow.
He will. We'll have the whole show back together, getting back together.
What?
Oh, wait, what was that, Don?
Y'all are smoking crack.
I know, right?
That's awesome right there. I can't believe Bab says a lot, but I'm here for it, though. That's my girl.
We cut it. We make sure we have it, right? We're all on there. We're all on the board. We appreciate you guys tuning in today. Like I said, the whole gang back together tomorrow on RKW. But before we toss it over to the Buck Rising Show with Lucas Panzica, Ramon?
You got to remember at all times, people were learning. Your Twitter fingers and your mic. It's always hot, baby.